Good morning, everyone. It is now 9:29 a.m. Thursday, June 11th, 2026, and I am calling to order the meeting of the Los Angeles Probation Oversight Commission. I am Dolores Canales, Chair of the Commission. We look forward to hearing from our panelists, commissioners, and the public today about many important issues, and thank you all for joining us. We did get a little bit late start, so I thank you all for your patience this morning. We have three main issues today, and we have set timeframes to discuss and act on each topic, so we hopefully can get through everything today with a robust discussion. This may mean I may have to ask some panelists and commissioners to limit your discussion in order to get public comment and be ready to vote or move on. If the commission agrees, I'm going to rearrange the order of the agenda today in order to accommodate the panelists' schedules. We will do our our administrative items first, and then move to agenda item 5, the update on the Care with Pride motion and services for LGBTQ youth. Then item 4, the update on college education in the facilities. Then item 3, the budget. Commissioner scratch that. Yeah. Okay. So, all right. Is everyone okay with this so far? All right. Great. Thank you. So thank you again all for joining today, and let's go ahead and get started. And I will turn over the meeting right now to Executive Director Wendy Julian to explain how you can participate during today's meeting, and then she will call the roll.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you all for joining here and in person. I want to extend a special thank you to the commissioners for being here today. This is the last week of school. I have school-age children, as do some of the commissioners, which makes this very challenging. Also, they have very challenging jobs and other family care responsibilities and have made the effort to be here today, and I'm very thankful. Also, it is Pride, happy Pride, and I would just like to say, as a reminder, with some of the topics today, Pride is, of course, a celebration, and I love the celebration of Pride, but it's also a protest. And it's also a time to remember the battles that have occurred and continue to occur for the fight for equality, and I'm looking forward to our agenda items addressing that today. We really look forward to your public participation in our meeting. We want your comments here live, on WebEx or in writing. You'll be able to give comment on every agenda item and at the end of the meeting for items that are not on the agenda. The way this is going to work is that Chair Canales will introduce the agenda item. We'll hear a presentation if there is any to be heard. The commission will have a discussion. We'll take public comment before the commission takes any action on the item. And if we run out of time, we may consider having town halls for some of the items. As you please remember, and this goes for everybody, the commissioners and panelists and public speakers, please speak directly into the microphone so that the virtual audience can hear you well. I'm going to ask you to please stop speaking when your time ends so I don't have to interrupt you. Please make sure your public comment relates to the subject matter of the item and remain respectful of each other and the forum. If you're here in person, it's easy to participate. You can just line up behind the podium. If you're on WebEx, you use the little raise your hand function. If you're calling in, use the *3 to raise your hand, and we'll call on you by your phone number. You may have to unmute yourself on WebEx or on the phone. To unmute yourself on the phone, you dial *6, but I'll remind you of that later. Everybody will have 2 minutes today for comments unless Chair Canales determines otherwise based on the number of commenters signed up for each item. If you want to submit your comment in writing, please send us an email to info@poc.lacounty.gov. Thanks to you who have already done that. Those that we've already received are attached to the agenda, and the commissioners have received them. If we get your comments in writing before 5 p.m. today, we'll attach them to the official minutes. And Janae's going to put that email address in the chat so you can do it. Please do not send your public comment in the chat on WebEx. Only the host is going to see it. It won't be logged as public comment. The commissioners won't see it, and it doesn't comport with our Brown Act responsibilities. If you are here in person today and need any accommodations regarding the materials, making public comment, or anything else, please contact Janae or Sarah in the back of the room. And if you have any trouble online, please send a message in the chat, and our host will be able to help you. As I said, we're broadcasting live on YouTube, but no engagement there. Please follow us on social media. There's lots of cool stuff there, and we also break down a lot of the things that are happening at other meetings, like the board meetings that matter to the work of the POC, and share more information about our reports. Buenos días, muy bienvenidos. Ya hemos iniciado la conferencia por Webex y también aquí en persona en St. Anne's. Si le gustaría hacer un comentario público, lo que tienen que hacer es hacer clic en la imagen de la mano que está en la parte baja de del Webex. Si está escuchando la conferencia por teléfono y quiere hacer una pregunta, hacer un comentario público, presione *3 y le llamaremos por su número de teléfono. No puede participar vía YouTube, solamente puede escuchar. Si prefiere hacer sus comentarios en español, le daremos el doble del tiempo y podemos proveer traducción al inglés al iniciar, o usted lo puede proveer si quiere. Al iniciar su comentario, nomás avísenos que necesita traducción. I'm going to call the roll. Commissioners, please respond when I call your name. Commissioner Brooke Harris, Commissioner Ishay Jackson, Commissioner Millie Kakani, Commissioner Don Meredith, Commissioner Sam Prater is absent. Commissioner Tyreek Ship. Commissioner Diane Terry is absent. And Chair Dolores Canales.
Here.
Thank you, Chair Canales. We have quorum, and I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Wendy. Let's go ahead and start with item 2, approval of the May 11th, 2026 special meeting minutes. Wendy, do we have any public comment on the minutes?
No written public comment. Anybody in the room want to make public comment on the minutes? They're riveting.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the May 11th, 2026 special meeting minutes? Okay, and a second? Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Kakani and seconded by Commissioner Ship. Are there any changes to the minutes? Hearing none, commissioners, please vote with a voice vote. All in favor? Any oppositions? Abstentions? All right, so hearing none, the motion carries. So for agenda item number 5, we will discuss and take action on programs and services to identify, serve, and protect LGBTQ plus youth who are detained. I think this is an appropriate motion at this time, being that it's Pride Month too, and Wendy, thank you for acknowledging that. This discussion will include a required update on the Care with Pride board motion and updates on progress to correctly identify and serve gender expansive youth. Here to present on this item are Susan Lyles, Acting Senior Director for the Los Angeles County Probation Department, Liz Sanchez, Program Manager with Young Women's Freedom Center. And thank you very much. We will go ahead and begin. We will begin with Suzanne. Thank you.
Hello? Okay, sorry about that. So I'm here to present for the,
Let me just bring it up. There we go.
okay. I'm here to present just an update on the Care with Pride motion. As you know, this was in response to a board motion that asked us to form a coalition for gender expansive youth to have these discussions. It's a gender health coalition. And so we recently reported back to the board in the form of a letter. We are continuing to meet on a regular basis. The Gender Health Coalition Committee meets every other month, and there are 3 different subcommittees that also meet about every other month or sometimes monthly to discuss some of the issues and everything of how we're going to implement different practices into the department. We have set up a referral process to connect youth to our agency providers to give them to support when they're detained, as well as when they are released back into the community. In addition, we've been working with the staff training office to expand the current training that addresses the LGBTQ community, as well as other gender expansive issues that we need to be aware of as a department. Yeah, and that's, if there's any questions regarding any updates that we're doing at the moment.
That's from the commissioners. Yes, Commissioner Kakani.
Can you hear me? Yes. Can you speak more to the training that you just referenced?
Yes. So currently in our regular block week training, we already have incorporated gender responsive training, trauma informed care, and equity and justice into that regular training that every staff is required to take. We're currently working with the LA LGBTQ committee. Ariel Bustamante just reached out to her to see what areas we need to expand upon within the training, if we need to provide additional training, and then working with our staff training office to see if we can start implementing that even within this next fiscal year into our regular training and booster trainings for all staff.
Can I ask Director Lyles, I think I know the answer to this, but I don't want to assume. I think that you mean the internal LGBTQ committee, of the probations committee?
No.
When you say Ariel Bustamante, you're talking about an internal?
No, she's from the LA LGBTQ committee that is outside of probation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. So the block training, just for everyone's understanding, is that, how often does that occur? Or is that just like a one-time thing, an annual thing?
It's annual.
And how many like hours is that?
The whole block week training is 40 hours. It's required, of course, for all staff. The gender responsive, I believe, is 2 hours. The trauma informed care is 4 hours. And the equity and justice is another 2 hours of training.
Commissioners, any more questions?
Sorry, so yes.
that's okay.
So, okay, so someone who received that training last year wouldn't receive that, whatever, 8-hour block until a year has passed. Is that kind of how it works? Once a year?
Yes, it's once a year.
Okay. And has it been updated from last year to this year, or is it largely the same up until, as of like today? Is it a revised training, or is it largely the same?
As far as I know, it's largely the same at this point. Like I said, we have been reaching out to some other agencies to help us enhance the training and determine if we need to do some additional training and incorporate it into that block week, or perhaps as additional training beyond the 40 hours.
Okay. And I know that there's I don't, maybe this is separate from what's happened. There's a contract, I believe, or a contractor, some sort of professor out of Connecticut who is supporting some of the gender expansive training at CVK. Is that someone that you're working with as well related to the block training, or not at all?
Not that I'm aware of, but I'd have to refer back to our STO director, who would be able to speak more on who exactly they're working with.
And what's your timeline for reviewing the existing training to potentially revamp it and offer something? maybe a little
Certainly, if
different?
we want to do something within this next fiscal year, it's something that is ongoing currently. And so I would anticipate within the next couple of months, they would be able to determine what kind of classes we might be able to, how to potentially recruit instructors, or if we need to, if we have staff within our ranks who would be able to speak. We have a lot of subject matter experts who have willingly been wanting to speak about this subject and how we can go about ensuring our staff are properly trained and aware.
Has these, thank you for taking a moment to introduce the item. Has these conversations between the Gender Health Coalition produced anything worth sharing, any strategic plans, anything that gives us some insight into how you guys are planning to implement programs and services for this group?
I think honestly that there's been some ongoing conversations about what that looks like across the field and then across facilities. When CVK opened, there were some other issues to go ahead and consider as that program got established and they started to contract and they started to work with different places. So I think the Gender Health Coalition is at a point where they are, working with what's happening at CVK and then working what's happening in the field and trying to put those things together.
Okay, so it's not exactly, well, I guess the question is like, to what extent are you guys starting from scratch when it comes to some of the planning versus like capitalizing off pre-existing efforts to sort of create something for them?
I think they're always trying to work with things that we've done in the past. We have made a lot of efforts on how to address this particular group of youth. and what needs to be done. So there's definitely things that have been put into place, whether, we're still working on how they're going to be put into practice. But I don't think we're starting at the beginning. I think we're building off of also, we're working with DMH, we're working with public health. Everybody has some established practices that they are within their departments, and trying to pull those together so that we are creating something that is robust, but something that is accountable for.
Mhm. One thing that I was curious about, I did an inspection at CVK recently, and probation had a response to our report and some of our findings, and part of the response spoke to our advocacy for non-carceral settings, and it was interesting how that sort of conflicted with a lot of the feedback that we were getting from the young people, the girls specifically, about not feeling entirely safe in open dorm settings. And so I'm always interested in how you guys are pursuing population-specific solutions, because like there's this conflict between open settings, home-like environments, but how is that being redefined for vulnerable populations? I really want to understand how you guys are working through those conflicts as well.
I think that's probably one of the topics that the Gender Health Coalition maybe needs to look into a little bit more. I know that in my different conversations with the Department of Youth Development and DYD, they've been also looking at like safe harbor programs of places that are, would fit the, what you're describing as a safe place for gender expansive and female youth to go to, that are not within a secure facility, but then what does that look like? And they've been kind of exploring those options, but also, there have been some, challenges with regards to how do you legally place a youth in this without a suitable placement order and different things along that line. So I know that that's I kind of want to almost defer to DYD, because I know they're certainly exploring that. And we've been working with them to say, how we can work together to ensure that these kind of places somehow would be able to exist for our youth.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Can you share a little bit about how you guys are going about identifying this group of young people?
From my understanding is this is still one of the challenges we're trying to work through, because we really want to be sensitive to what our youth are willing to disclose to us, but then also be able to have our staff approach it in a way that is also sensitive to, any kind of issues or anything that might be happening within their lives. We don't want to create more trauma by asking them to identify themselves or do anything like that. So we really want to be very practiced and very sure of how we're approaching it, but also be very respectful, because everybody is at a different place with regards to their willingness to disclose. I know one of the issues that had kind of come up is like, well, why isn't it in your system? Well, not every youth wants to be in the system identified in a certain way. So we really want to be mindful of how to do that, because we do want to be able to, of course, get data or do different things around the population, but at the same time, be respectful of their wishes to, maybe they don't want to be in the system identified this way. Maybe they're still, having some struggles or different things of how they're identifying themselves. So it's just kind of balancing their needs, with the departments wanting to identify so that we can ensure that they're getting the proper support services in place.
Sure. Thank you for that. Tariq.
Yes, Commissioner Ship.
Yeah, thank you for that. Kind of building on Commissioner Jackson's question, is there anything that you guys are doing or just planning on the ground to make young people more comfortable with this idea of LGBTQ youth, right? Like, are you guys hosting pride events, or do they have access to books about famous leaders like Bayard Rustin or Sylvia Rivera? Are you hosting trainings with these young people, or what does it look like to make these young people more comfortable with a certain set of group of individuals who they may never have been exposed to?
I believe that's certainly one of our goals, to not only, create a space for our youth to feel comfortable in, to have these conversations, or at least to disclose, but to also bring our staff into a place where they also feel comfortable approaching these subjects, or if someone comes to them with these issues, that they understand what that's going through, and create a appropriate response. So I think that that's certainly something we're looking to. And then I would almost want to turn it over, because I know that you're doing, they're doing some work with CVK especially, of how we are training staff and stuff. So I just really quickly.
Yes. Would the commissioners like to hear from Liz Sanchez now? Yes, so Liz, if you want to go ahead and talk about the work that Young Women's Freedom Center is doing inside and outside of the facilities. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, thank you so much for having us. We're so excited to be a part of this. My name is Liz Sanchez, and I am the LA Program Manager, specifically working with in detention youth. And happy Pride, everyone. Young Women's Freedom Center has been around for 30 plus years. We are a leadership incubator. We really focus on that with all of our youth. So a little bit about what we do. We visit the youth Monday through Friday, every other weekends as well. We conduct programming pretty much every day with every cottage that we have access to. And what this looks like is a myriad of things. We work through everything from identity, attachment styles, things that are going to help our folks, our young people, understand themselves as a whole. But specifically for Pride Month, we've been kicking off a lot of our Pride curriculum, where we're really focusing on helping folks understand, and not just our youth who identify as queer youth, but also our, queer allies. Understanding what identity means versus attraction versus expression, right? Because a lot of times how we might feel inside is not how we express. And some of the young people are also experiencing what that means to navigate that. So, just in a quick brief, success story, we had a couple coming out last week, and there was safety there for everyone. They had their team there, they had us, they had their peers who supported that. And a lot of that is through education. We talked about Sylvia Rivera, Marsha P. Johnson. We helped them understand the education about what Pride really is and why it's for all of us and why it is a point of activism for all human rights. With that said, visibility is huge. So our representation in our staff does represent our queer siblings, whether being non-binary, our trans youth, myself being queer. And we also are very big on not isolating our queer participants. So what that means is everyone's learning this curriculum. No one's singled out. We want everyone to understand this and be able to move with this education. We find that really builds alliance and it builds trust between the youth. Lastly, let's see. I think one thing that I'm really noticing, gender affirming care is becoming more of a need that they're expressing, and that's because they're feeling more comfortable about their transition. So I think that's kind of like an overview real quick on what we do and how we approach things.
Thank you for that presentation. I happen to know personally some of your facilitators that are going into the facility and the lives that they live and their relationships, and just I think you have some really beautiful people in your organization bringing forth this familiarization so that people feel comfortable where they're at. Commissioners, do you have any questions? Yes, Commissioner Brooks.
Harris. It's all good.
You know who you are. Thank you.
I know. You're just channeling Commissioner Mundo. Okay. So thank you so much, both of you, for presenting and for that wonderfully articulate synopsis of the work that you're doing in the facility. I think that's incredible. One thing that I would like you both to talk about, if you can, is this sort of acceptance or notion that I think is a bit prevalent right now, that the only gender expansive or queer youth are at CVK. And it troubles me a little bit. I've said this, I think, before in a meeting, but there are like 400 or 500 other kids in LA detention facilities, and to think that this population is only with the girls and gender expansive youth. I really appreciate the department names gender expansivity as part of, it's public, it's talked about, but even, there was a complaint that we read, what's it called, a grievance at LP for a youth who was talking about their pronouns. And so I just want to get, I think from a CBO perspective and the work that you're doing, and also a departmental perspective on what the plan is to look at this big picture, and to think about some of this programming, safety measures, identifying youth at all of the other detention facilities as well.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for that. And, we, of course, would love to work with other facilities as we're able to gain those contracts. But one thing we do is we are launching satellite programming where this can actually go into some of the suitable housing when folks are released, that we can continue the work with them. And of course, at our center, our doors are open and we hold weekly healing circles. It's our freedom circle that we do. We also really help the youth find their path and their way. And you spoke about pronouns, which is a huge thing. Liz, she, her. We let people know immediately that even if I identify as a cisgendered individual, it's important for me to show that in space because it really does validate all of our identities. So we really take these practices outside of CVK, and we would love to expand those further as we're able to.
Thank you. Can you talk a little bit about the rapport that you have with the staff at CVK? I know when I've been on site, there seems to be a very good rapport and communication and everything like that. How do you feel that's going?
Yeah, I think it's going great. Honestly, we know each other by name and we really work together, whether if, youth is getting released and they need support with rides or we need to help, the parents out, like they'll call me directly and be like, Liz, can you help us? We need to make sure this youth gets, mom gets up here or whatnot, We do morning check-ins with them. So we're able to check in with like the population, see any updates that we need, see what's happening, things like that. So I think that we're building a really strong rapport, and that's really the front end. And inside the cottages, I really love the connection that's happening because, as we're there and we're navigating our programming and our information, probation is there and they're listening and they're supporting it. And the girls and the youth and the gender expansive youth will actually feel safe to talk to them about things. And so I would say that like I see a connection between all of us, and this is just something that we're observing. But yeah, our relationship is really building strong and continuing to do the work together and support each other.
Thank you. I know I was there one time recently and there was a young girl being released and they made sure that she had the numbers, to contact you and right away let you know and everything. And I thought, well, that's a good transition and a warm handoff to make sure that the youth have these. And I've been to the healing circles at the center, so that's always, yes, commissioners, any more questions? Yes, Commissioner Kakani.
Sorry, I feel like we keep again, like honing in on CVK, and I know you referenced satellite programming. Can you say more about what that means?
Yeah, so a lot of our youth are released to suitable housing.
Okay.
So we want to be able to bring Freedom Circle to them because the healing circles we do inside and the healing circles we do at our facility or at our center, if they're at suitable housing, they're not able to leave. We want them to still get that and keep that momentum because I think it's really, integral to their success. Especially with our, LGBTQ plus youth who are still navigating and they need that reflection and point of reference and the relationships that we build just to keep that going. So some of those look like our Girls Republic. We do a lot of visits with Diamonddale.
Okay. I see what you're saying. I was more talking about the other facilities, right? We
Oh,
do
yes,
have a handful of other carceral facilities being LP, Barry J. And so to both Commissioner Shipp's point about exposing young folks who may feel either a stigma towards themselves if they are kind of exploring whether it's their, their gender identity, their sexuality, whatever it is, and also stigma towards others.
Yeah.
So I was just maybe, Ms. Lyle, if you could speak to what's happening in other facilities, if anything, related to like what's happening either in CVK or separate and apart.
So I fall back on a little bit is that the training is for all staff across all facilities. So any expansion or any enhancements to that training would be for every staff, field, all facilities included. But specifically, if there's anything happening at the other facilities that, or, like you said, Barry J or LP, I would have to go back to those managers because they are coordinating any of those efforts and bringing in those programming separately at each facility. So I would, kind of pause that maybe, and then I could get that information and maybe bring it back.
Okay, and then just a follow-up question, I think, related to Commissioner Ship's question about, exposing young folks to other like leaders in the movement, kind of, you said, I believe that's certainly one of our goals. Do you have like a stated list of goals as it relates to strengthening the safety net for LGBTQ plus residents and system-involved youth? Is there like a document, or even as I was just reading the report back, there's a lot of mention of, structured forum to coordinate care, address barriers in real time, and strengthen cross-departmental collaboration. Like, is there any documentation beyond kind of just these loose words that don't really mean anything unless we see what they look like in practice?
I don't think anything, again, is a lot of discussion.
Okay.
I don't think anything has been written as far as I know. But again, I'll look back and see if there's anything, because I'm certain the Gender Health Coalition has some, benchmarks that they would like to achieve.
Okay, yeah, I mean, especially since this was a motion from June 17th, 2025, I would hope that there'd be some written documentation of the progress on implementing some of these things.
Okay, before we move back on to Wendy for public comment, do you have anything else to close with before we move on to public comment? So don't leave yet. Okay. And so Wendy, I'll go ahead and hand it over to you now.
I'm actually, commissioners, if it's okay, going to ask, Tapao Osborne is here from LACO for the next agenda item. And I think is able to talk a little bit about some of the work that happens in LACO classrooms specific to your question, if you would be interested in hearing that. So she's making her way in. Thank you, Ms. Osborne. I know this is not what you're here for today, but I really appreciate you being able to share about it. So the question, the topic of conversation was about how young people at all of the different facilities, not just Kilpatrick, embraces learning about LGBTQ history, heroes, and other topics to reduce stigma. Am I paraphrasing that correctly, Commissioner Ship? What I told Ms. Osborne is that I've seen that happening in LACO classrooms a couple of times. So maybe you could just talk a little bit about how that happens.
Are you? Absolutely. Within our required curriculum of Teen Talk, which does provide with our health education and healthy relationships, talking about also just the alternate, like different relationships, different types of relationships. LGBTQ subject matter is also discussed within that. So yes, you're very correct. We do have those conversations within our schools.
Paris?
I feel like this is a little nebulous for me. I think I know that Ms. Lyles, I don't think you have the answers right now, and that's okay. I just want to make sure that we really do revisit and understand with specificity what is happening at every other remaining detention facility outside of CBK. Because it's important, and there's a lot of other detained youth and people that look like boys can also be queer and or gender expansive and or trans or non-binary or any of the other beautiful acronyms that are out there. So just that's the request is, not only what the training is, but what is happening on the ground in every other facility outside of CBK. Thank you.
Go ahead. So the request is for more information concerning the other facilities, and they could send an email to Wendy with more information, or would you like another meeting?
We can start with I think maybe start with staff Wendy and Dr. Gongora could talk to Ms. Lyles, talk to Ms. Lyles, email with Ms. Lyles or the Gender Health Committee and see what we get, and then we could agendize it later if we need to.
I'm more than willing to follow up with, again, the managers of the other facilities and see what programming and anything that they're doing to, identify and work with this population.
Thank you.
Okay, commissioners, any other questions or comments before I? Yes, all right, and with that.
Okay. All right. If you'd like to give public comment on this topic, please approach the podium if you're here in person, or use the little hand icon on the bottom of your screen on WebEx. If you're calling in, dial *3. Again, if you're on YouTube, you can't make public comment. You got to join on the WebEx, and you can see how to do that on our website. I don't see anybody in person. Do we have anyone online? Okay. I'll turn it back over to you. Actually, thank you very much, Director Lyles. Thank you very much, Liz. I appreciate the presentation. Thank you, Ms. Osborne. With that, you're excused. Thank you for your participation today. And I think we're ready in terms of the next presentation to bring up our presenters and also make Alex Jaquez a presenter, a panelist on WebEx. If we can bring him up virtually, please. So we'll do that transition.
Okay, thank you so much to our panelists. And so now with that, we are going to move on to agenda item 4, which is to discuss and take possible action on reports from the Los Angeles County Office of Education, known as LACO, and Third Way Solutions on progress towards the creation of an implementation plan to provide post-secondary education services in juvenile court schools inside probation's detention facilities. The Probation Department is here to present in accordance with the board motion on this topic, and the Office of Youth and Community Restoration, OYCR, is also here today to provide support if needed. Attached to the agenda are PowerPoint presentations from LACO and Third Way Solutions, along with reference documents on this topic from previous POC meetings. Can I ask each panelist to introduce themselves and their teams? And we will go ahead and start to the left of Wendy.
Good morning, everyone. Ramon Williams. I'm the manager of LA County Probation Education Services Section.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mario Marcos. I'm the Chief of School Support and Transformation over our juvenile court schools with the Los Angeles County Office of Education.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tapao Osborne. I am the Director of School Counseling, Transition Aftercare, and Post-Secondary Services for the Los Angeles County Office of Education.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Janice Phelps. I'm one of the executive directors for Special Programs Support and Transformation at the Los Angeles County Office of Education.
Good morning. I'm Michelle Dawson, and I'm also an executive director overseeing CTE and STEAM and innovation programs for LACO.
Very much. And with that, I believe we are opening up with the LACO presentation.
Alex, online.
Oh, yes. Alex, if you would like to introduce yourself.
Morning. My name is Alex Jakes, Chief of Staff for Third Way Solutions. Pleasure to be with you this morning.
Thank you. Okay, so now we are going to open up with the LACO presentation highlighting the work currently underway, as well as their plans to expand opportunities for high school students in the areas of dual enrollment, career technical education, known as CTE, and STEM, critical components in preparing their students for college, careers, and future success. And then after that, we will go straight into the presentation on the work they have been doing in partnership with LACO and discuss preparations related to the potential transition of LACO's graduates into their program. Thank you.
So again, good morning, everyone. My name is Mario Marcos. I'm the Chief of School Support and Transformation. And as you know, at the direction of the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors, LACO has been engaged in planning and exploratory work to better understand what an expanded educational role could look like if the County Office of Education were to lead efforts and assume responsibility for post-secondary education services for our incarcerated youth at probation detention facilities. Today, we will share 2 areas of work. First, our LACO team, SPST, would like to share efforts to expand dual enrollment and career technical education opportunities for high school students currently enrolled in our programs, because ultimately the graduates would be our same students. So it's important that we pave the way for them and we establish a strong foundation. And then second, our partners from Third Way Solutions will provide an overview of the visioning and analysis work that they have been conducting alongside LACO to help us think strategically about future possibilities regarding post-secondary education. Next slide. Something that is clear to us is that research consistently shows that access to higher education is one of the most effective strategies for reducing recidivism and improving long-term outcomes. We know that justice-impacted individuals who access higher education are approximately 43% less likely to return to prison. Post-secondary education also increases employment opportunities, earning potential, and successful community reintegration. So these findings reinforce why expanding educational pathways remains central to our work for our high school students. Next slide. This slide shows our educational priorities at LACO with our juvenile court schools. At LACO, we've come to understand that we need to define success not only as academic proficiency, meaning a color on the California dashboard or a number on the California dashboard, but truly as acceleration, as opportunity and preparation for life beyond our programs. So our focus is expanding access to dual enrollment, career technical education. We want to expand STEM opportunities to help students earn credentials, build skills, and create pathways to college and careers. Next slide. So to support this work, we've realigned our college and career efforts by strengthening leadership, counseling, and also transition support systems. This structure allows us to better coordinate services, partnerships, and student supports as we expand college and career opportunities across our programs. So basically what we are doing is we are building and expanding our unit focused on college and career. As you can see on the screen, we now have an executive director focusing on dual enrollment efforts. That would be Dr. Janice Phelps, who is here with us today. We also have a new, and I say new because she's been with us for about 3 months. I've been in the organization 5. She came a little bit after me, Michelle Dawson, whose focus is expanding career technical education and STEM opportunities for our students. We do have also, as part of the team, Tapa Osborne, many years of experience working with our schools and students. And there will be someone, a coordinator 3, joining us as well early in July. So as you can see, we are building a strong team to lead these efforts around dual enrollment opportunities, career technical education, and STEM opportunities in our settings. And now we'll turn to the opportunity over to Mr. Pau Osborne to continue expanding on college readiness.
Again, good morning. Our college readiness work is centered on ensuring that students have meaningful access to higher education opportunities while enrolled in our programs. Dual enrollment is one of the primary strategies we are using to help students begin earning college credit and envisioning themselves as future college students. Next slide. This slide highlights the current dual enrollment offerings through partnerships with Mount SAC, East Los Angeles College, and Cerritos College. Students are already enrolling in college-level coursework while completing their high school education. We have also launched a career technical education dual enrollment graphic design course at Camp Afro. Looking ahead, we are significantly expanding opportunities across our schools and camps. Students have access to additional academic courses, career exploration courses, and CTE pathways in areas such as automotive, technology, culinary arts, business, graphic design, and financial literacy. Our goal is to create a consistent college/career-bound culture across all of our school sites. Next slide. Our implementation strategy has followed a 3-phase process. We began with community college partnership meetings, followed by collaborative site planning sessions, and are now in the implementation phase, launching summer and fall offerings across multiple locations. This structured approach has allowed us to move quickly while building strong partnerships. Now I will turn it over to our Executive Director, Dr. Janice Phelps.
Thank you, Ms. Osborne. To sustain this work, we are hosting our first dual enrollment and CTE Momentum Symposium later this month. The symposium will bring together school leaders and community college partners to finalize our plans for the 2026-2027 academic year and strengthen alignment across all participating institutions. Next slide. We currently have partnerships with 8 community colleges and are finalizing the CCAP agreements with 2 additional institutions. Expanding this partnership increases access to college coursework and creates more opportunities for students to earn college credit while enrolled in our programs. These partnerships meetings have helped establish clear action plans, identify available courses, and strengthen communication between LACO and our community college partners. The result is a strong foundation for sustainable dual enrollment opportunities across our sites. Moving forward, our priorities are straightforward. Expand partnerships, increase course offerings, increase student participation, maintain strong completion rates, and provide the supports that our students need to succeed. Together, these efforts will create a strong college-bound culture throughout our system. At this time, I'd like to introduce Michelle Dawson, the Executive Director of STEAM and Career Technical Education.
Thank you, Dr. Phelps. Career readiness is a cornerstone of our work. For justice-impacted youth, career exploration and workforce preparation helps students connect their education to future opportunities in high-demand fields. Our goal is to ensure that every student has access to meaningful career pathways and hands-on learning experiences that lead to post-secondary jobs and careers. Next slide. Our CTE opportunity map is designed around the length of stay of our students in our programs. Students begin with exposure, move into deep engagement through hands-on learning and industry experiences, and ultimately progress towards industry credentials, certifications, and post-secondary transition. This creates a clear pathway from exploration to career readiness. Our current work focuses on 3 priorities. First, we're evaluating our current CTE systems. We're working on expanding our dual enrollment opportunities, and we're developing a long-term strategic plan to guide our future growth. This ensures that we're building sustainability and scalability across our programs. Next slide. So what's going on with CT right now? Our current state shows that we're building both momentum and growth. We already have several CTE initiatives, some that have been mentioned, including graphic design pathways and dual enrollment in culinary arts, financial literacy, automotive technology, and we're expanding to audio and video production. These programs provide students with practical skills while exposing them to future career opportunities. We've also, at Barry J., we've built the BJN Paxton Patterson labs, which provide career exploration across multiple industry sectors. The labs give the students hands-on project-based exposure across industry sectors such as construction, health, manufacturing, IT, and other high-demand related fields. These experiences allowed students to build their confidence, develop technical skills, and connect classroom learning to future job openings. This summer, we have launched our CT Innovation Pathways, which connects STEAM and career readiness through high engagement activities such as virtual reality, robotics, esports, and coding. These experiences engage students while helping them develop their skills, align with emerging industries and future career opportunities. Next slide. Looking forward, our goal is to expand opportunities in CT. Right now, we're looking at automotive technology, construction, health, barbering, and other high-demand sectors. Our vision is to create a seamless pipeline from career exploration to credential attainment, college coursework, and successful transition into employment and post-secondary opportunities. So thank you. I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Marcos.
I do believe we do have Third Way Solutions ready for the second part of this presentation.
Great.
Good morning again. I'm wondering if the presentation is shared on your end or if I should share on my screen.
I'm making eye contact with my team on the other side of the room, but I think we will be sharing it on our screen.
Sure thing.
Oh, yes, it's up. Thank you, Alex. You can begin.
Great, thank you.
And I'm sorry, commissioners, you don't have this one in your packet, so you'll need to turn around and look at it on the screen, but it is linked to the agenda.
Thank you. Good morning again. I am appreciative of the opportunity to provide an update on this work. Several months ago, this body, the Probation Oversight Committee, raised an important question, which is, are we providing high school graduates in probation facilities with the educational opportunities they need to successfully transition into college, career, and community life? Our team at Third Way Solutions was asked to help examine the current state, identify strengths and gaps, and ultimately make some recommendations about the future governance and delivery of post-secondary education in these settings. Today, I'd like to briefly review where we started, what we've learned since completing the report, and how we are moving from reporting to looking ahead. Next slide, please. I'll begin by revisiting the original charge from the commission and the information available to us when we conducted the initial analysis. That context is important because it explains both what we were able to learn and what additional work became necessary after the report was completed. Next slide, please. The original review asked 4 key questions. First, whether the existing model for serving high school graduates in probation facilities was producing the educational outcomes we want. Second, what it would take for LACO to assume responsibility for post-secondary educational programming. Third, what staffing, funding, accountability, reporting structures would be necessary under any future model. And fourth, whether vocational and career technical education should also be incorporated into a broader educational strategy. To answer those questions, we reviewed aggregate population data, program inventories, and stakeholder perspectives from across this ecosystem, LACO, probation, higher education partners, and members of the commission. What quickly became clear was that there were promising practices in place, but the system lacked a coherent framework for understanding who students were, what pathways best fit their needs, and how outcomes were being measured across sites. Next slide, please. Following the submission of the initial report, we've shifted from diagnosis to design. And so our work has been, since then, early spring, focused on 4 areas. The first is to better understand the data. Second was developing a framework for implementation. Third was engaging stakeholders in structured learning sessions. And fourth is sort of ongoing identification of the resources required to make any future state successful. Next slide. We do have useful information today. At the site level, we can see enrollment patterns, student age, race and ethnicity, average lengths of stay, historical trends, and the types of academic programming currently available. That information helps us understand the scale and complexity of the system. These are, though, largely aggregate data points. They tell us who's in the system broadly, but they don't tell us about individual student needs, readiness, goals, or educational trajectories. In other words, they have helped us understand the population, but they don't yet help us or equip us to design differentiated pathways for students. And pathways are ultimately, these differentiated pathways are ultimately where increased positive outcomes are created. Next slide. The most important gap has been in student level data. To build effective educational pathways, we need to understand how students move through the system over time. We need a better visibility into entry patterns, exits, transfers, length of stay, participation in programming, and transition outcomes. The report identified this as one of the biggest barriers to designing a truly student-centered model. Without this information, we risk designing pathways, of course, based on assumption rather than actual student experience. The good news is that we know what information is needed. And so this next phase is about bringing together probation data and educational data in a way that allows us to understand real student profiles and design accordingly. Next slide. We also need educational information from school systems, some of which we have, specifically attendance patterns, behavior data, academic performance, credits earned. Again, there is access to this information. The report concluded that a meaningful pathway design requires combining the educational data that we have and probation data. Neither system currently alone tells the full story. So our implementation question is, how quickly can we access these data sources so that decisions are informed by this evidence rather than intuition? Next slide. If we successfully integrate these data sources, I think we can create something much more powerful. Instead of planning around programs, we can plan around students. The vision is a planning tool that allows us to understand who the students are, what pathway best fits their need, what supports are required, how resources should be allocated across sites. This aligns directly with the report's language that educational design should ideally begin with the student profiles and pathways rather than organizational structures. Next slide. This slide represents the heart of this stage of conversation and planning. So as we've moved from report to design, we've organized the work into 6 focus areas. First is intake, placement, and transitions. Second, enabling conditions. Third, mindset, culture, and daily practice. Fourth, staffing models. Fifth, higher education and credential pathways. And sixth, instructional quality. These areas align with the theory of action described in the report, which identified 5 components necessary for high quality educational programming. Excuse me. The 5 components necessary for high quality educational programming have been used to base some learning sessions that we are engaging in with the LACO team and others. The purpose of these sessions is not to discuss the ideas, but really to define what success looks like, continue to identify gaps between the current and desired state, and build consensus around implementation priorities. The LACO teams have been deeply engaged in the work, and we are actively working to contribute to some potential future state design. Next slide. This slide provides one example of how we're approaching implementation. Often discussions can focus only on curriculum or programming, but we know, of course, that educational outcomes are heavily influenced by the surrounding conditions. So questions like, is technology available? Are schedules aligned? Can students access instruction consistently? Are transitions managed effectively within sites? And these, may seem operational. They heavily and directly affect learning. And so our self-assessment process sort of asks a simple question. Does this condition make it easier or harder for young people to learn consistently, safely, and with dignity? Over the summer, we'll continue facilitating these conversations while also conducting some site-level assessments to identify both bright spots and opportunities for improvement. Next slide. So this planning also requires some financial clarity. On the LACO side, we have a growing understanding of available funding streams, policy opportunities, and higher education partnerships that can support quality programming. What we still need is a comparable understanding of the financial resources currently supporting this work through probation. The phase we're currently in includes a dedicated financial feasibility work stream that will examine existing expenditures, cost per student, staffing models, funding grades, and long-term sustainability scenarios. And so that goal is to ensure, of course, that resources are aligned with outcomes and that any potential future model is financially sustainable. Next slide. So finally here, the key question now is how to implement, move toward recommendations within LACO and to this body so that change can be thoughtfully, responsibly implemented in a way that improves outcomes for young people. Next slide. So after reviewing the data, research, stakeholder perspectives, we believe that LACO could be positioned to serve as educational lead for this continuum of learners, but the governance alone does not necessarily improve outcomes. So the opportunity in front of us is larger. There's a choice here, I think, to redesign systems around students, create stronger pathways, improve instructional quality, clarify accountability, and build a more coherent educational continuum from custody through reentry. And ultimately, we believe that success will be measured by whether more young people leave these settings with having made meaningful educational progress, recognized with credentials, and of course, ultimately a clear pathway to opportunity and choice. That concludes our prepared presentation.
Thank you so much. And now we will move on to Mr. Williams. Mr. Williams, it's great to see you.
Thank you.
Always remember the great work we did together. You especially uplift that at Los Padrinos, and I appreciate you. Go ahead.
Well, I don't have a presentation prepared. I'm here to answer education services, post-secondary specific questions as it relate to probation. So.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So with that, I believe we have Dr. Michael Massa here, Chief of OYCR's Health Policy Division, that's going to come up to say a few words.
Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to take a step back with the conversation and just contextualize this in the framework that we find ourselves now, where the juvenile justice system in California has gone through the biggest change in California history, right? We've shut down the state system that youth who were given long-term commitments were sent to, and are now in a model where young people stay within their counties for the duration of their commitments. And this puts a heavy responsibility on the counties that they haven't had previously, including more pressure to build out educational, especially higher educational pathways, because the young people in custody previously were there for maybe a year or so and would be able to continue their education, whether it be at the Department of Juvenile Justice or back in the community. So contextualizing that, California recognized that there was going to be a gap at the county level and heavily invested in the Rising Scholars effort to support community colleges to have the financial stability to provide educational access in the county detention facilities, specific to the SYTF population who are serving out the long-term commitments. LA has 8 funded community colleges. That's more than, 7 funded community colleges through the Rising Scholars Initiative. That's more than any other county in the state. However, proportionately, we're not seeing the progress in LA in terms of young people getting their associate degrees or meeting the transfer requirements to then go to 4-year colleges. And this is critical because we have data through the Project Rebound programs, which is the California State University's justice-involved student program. For any student who's justice-involved and connected to the Project Rebound, the recidivism rates are less than 1%. There's nothing in the juvenile justice system that is as effective as that 4-year community or 4-year degree and the support of programs like Rising Scholars and Project Rebound. Fortunately, the community colleges in Los Angeles, specific to the LA Community College District, are more than willing to work together to build out a continuum of class offerings so young people in detention settings can take a full-time course load of community college classes, which would put them in a position to be considered to then transfer to a 4-year college at the same time as any other student. And we're not taking advantage of that yet. It doesn't mean it can't happen. I think from the presentation we saw today, LACO has just put so much intentionality into really considering all the different variables. And to the credit, LACO is the largest county office of education in the country and has the breadth of resources that really no other county office of education has, right? They're built for this. And we saw from the presentation just the different layers that they're thinking about this, from the academic perspective, from the career and technical education perspective, to really give our young people pathways, not only to reenter post a commitment completion, but to thrive, because we know our young people, when given the opportunities, are amazing and exceed our expectations. And so I will acknowledge that I worked for LACO before my work now with the OICR, and worked really closely with Probation Ed Services. And we had to navigate COVID and getting computers and just never accepting no access, right? We had to work backwards through the non-negotiable that we were going to make sure our young people had access to college. So when the issue arose, oh, we can't mix units, we found a solution to that. When the issue arose, oh, we can't mix the girls and the boys, we found the solution to that. So the solutions are there. And I think it's important that we let our partners, because it takes a partnership, right? Probation can't do it alone, LACO can't do it alone. It's the adults having to work together. I just come back to educators are built to educate young people. Let the educators do their job, and probation is built to provide the safety and security for our young people, and let probation do their job. We're starting to see this in other counties across the state. More and more higher ed services are transferring to county offices of education, and we're seeing young people now stepping down onto four-year campuses and getting day-for-day credit off their commitment in these four-year college settings, and they're thriving. And we're getting the graduation pictures, and we're seeing young people get career pathway opportunities and internships. It's just a beautiful thing. It's what the rehabilitative part of juvenile justice looks like. And so, you know, I still have ownership over the young people in Los Angeles, and really want to offer that OICR is completely committed to supporting the efforts to make sure that our young people have access and the opportunity to thrive, which we know they can.
Yeah, thank you for that. Commissioners, yes, Commissioner Meredith? Oh, I thought you were done. I'm
I
sorry.
am done.
He gave me like a nod, so I took that as.
I was just going to point out that two of the colleges there I do teach at, and some of my students are on probation, especially the one at El Camino. I do get quite a few there, some of which I did recruit from the facilities. A lot of it has to do with what they've been encouraged by probation to do, so I got to commend probation on that. One of the weaknesses of the system, and this is just a personal observation when I talk to some of the youth that are in custody, is that, yeah, we'll do a lot of academics, but we really have not done anything for trades. And a lot of them want to be auto mechanics, welders. And that's one, I think, one of the weaknesses we need to look at. How do we accomplish that too?
And just as a comment to that, that's the beauty about the community colleges, is that more so than the four-year universities, they do have an emphasis on trades, certification programs, pathways for licensure. So the community colleges are built out for that, like the culinary programs that I saw. I know Mount Sac, their culinary program is renowned. So that variety is offered. And that's where I think some of the coordination is going to be important, because if Mount Sac has that amazing culinary program, but there are kids in Los Padrinos that's not in their boundary, how do the colleges work together so that young people have access to the full milieu of options? And we've seen that, like in San Diego, multiple community colleges signed an MOU to work together to bypass the boundary issues. And now the young people have a full array of options. However, no other county would have as many options as LA if we started to institute some of these best practices.
Well, and you agree, the boundary issues has been one of the problems we've dealt with in the past.
But the colleges that are being funded through the Rising Scholars Grant have all explained that they are on board to working cooperatively so they can complement each other's class offerings so that young people have a full array of options.
Yes, Commissioner Shipp?
Looking at all this is beautiful. I'm excited to see what happens for young people. Maybe I'm a bit confused, just a little bit, because I was hoping to hear more so about, and I see we talk about dual enrollments and getting our young people ready for college, but I was hoping to hear more about for those young people who are already in college, because right now, most of those young people are sitting inside. They get an hour a day of college, which is not a lot. They don't have access to books afterwards. And I think when we did this motion, it was coming off this idea of uh, we went inside and we talked to probation and education services, and there was maybe 3 staff there at the time, overseeing 22 kids, and they were using LACO computers, right? And so I wanted to know, like, are we moving away from this idea of LACO taking over probation at secondary education, or are we just focused on how we dual enroll our students? And like I'm trying to figure out where we are, and, or has the plan changed overall?
I can answer most of that. Um, first thing I want to say is we definitely appreciate the partnership, the stakeholders. We appreciate all of the folks that care about our young people. We understand that there are some gaps, and we're working diligently to fill those gaps. We have collaborated with a number of interested people, and I'm very comfortable that over time, many of these gaps will be filled. In terms of, there was kind of a lot in what you asked, but in terms of what's going on now, I think it's important because there's kind of a narrative out there that isn't necessarily accurate. I think it's important to take a step back and understand what our approach is to post-secondary education. It's important to understand that every young person that we support through college receives an ed plan. That ed plan is created by the counselors and the post-secondary institution that is in their geographical area. So for example, Los Padrinos, Cerritos College, Kilpatrick, Mission College, Barry J, Mission College, they prepare an ed plan. With that ed plan, we work directly with students to determine what courses they want to take consistent with that ed plan. We understand that post-secondary access is a legislative right, and so we don't deny access, but we don't force kids to take college as well. And so every single kid gets an opportunity to participate in college by our unit. Now, I will tell you that there are some instances where for safety security reasons, they may not have the same amount of access. And we're working through some solutions for that, but that is just something that you can expect in a custodial setting. The narrative that we're not producing graduates. To date, we have 25 young people who have received their associate's degree while in custody. 25 young people. Many of those individuals have transitioned to four-year colleges, Berkeley, Northridge, and so there are successes there. Right now, we just finished spring session B. I believe there was about 130 graduates that, when I say graduates, I mean high school graduates, that were enrolled. We had 7 different unique courses across the 7 facilities. When we're looking at summer session A, we're still enrolling because that begins next week, but we have close to 100 young people already enrolled. So there's a lot that's going on in terms of the amount of time a young person receives, because we get that inquiry often. It's different for each site. Kilpatrick is a facility that a lot of folks are talking about right now, right? And so specifically as it relates to Kilpatrick, the young women at Kilpatrick receive 4 hours a day, laptop access. They get support to college programming. And that is what we have determined that we can do based on the dynamics at Kilpatrick. At Los Padrinos, it's a little different. I believe they get 2 sessions a day. Each session is about 2 hours. So the amount of time varies per site because there's different dynamics with each site. And those dynamics are dynamics that we know about as probation employees that others may not know about or have an understanding of. So the access is there, the curriculum is there, the success is there. There's more success to be had. And that's why we welcome the partnerships, we welcome the review, the audits, we welcome all of that. A couple other things, and then I'll just stop and I'll let you ask me more direct questions.
The reason why I'm just cutting you off, and not to be rude at all, but that's not what I'm asking. And I apologize if I confused you with that. In my mind, or at least from what I read from the board motion, LACO is supposed to be figuring out how to take over all post-secondary education services.
Okay.
And I wanted to know, is that not happening? And I've seen the report back. I've seen the chief's response about it, saying that we don't think that they should take over the management, et cetera. And to be honest with you, the response that is LA County is too big and unique is not good enough for us. So are we still doing this, or are we not doing this? And then has there been any changes to probation education services that has changed and has made this better for our young people?
As it relates to your question, in terms of taking over post-secondary, there's two things that we have to discuss. One is there remains a legislative challenge hurdle, which is the Welfare and Institutions Code, I believe it's 898.2, that squarely places the responsibility of post-secondary on the hands of probation. And so we have to talk about a couple of things. Either there's a legislative change, which I haven't heard anything about, or we talk about a solution. One of the solutions that we wrote in our April 22nd response is that Assembly Bill 2181 allows for young people to defer their degree to allow them to stay at LACO for an extended period of time. And during that time, they can take very targeted post-secondary courses or any other service that LACO would like to provide. So if a young person is able to graduate with 130 credits, we're talking about AB 216 individuals, if they're able to graduate, that young person can say, I don't want to have my diploma at this time, remain under the jurisdiction of LACO, and then LACO can extend those post-secondary courses. That would eventually lead to more individuals taking courses under dual enrollment for LACO without having to address the Welfare and Institutions challenge and hurdle. And so we had some preliminary conversations about that with LACO leadership, and we're looking to have some additional conversations about that.
And that does make sense to me. But I also know that the department can, and if they were willing to, can give this over. We've seen it with programming recently where they were on board with the program in motion. So can you, and maybe this is my question, what is the reluctance of the department to hand this issue over, especially when we know that there are staffing challenges, there are other issues? What is the reluctance of the department to hand over education to LACO since and bolster up their staff in other places?
If the legislation places the responsibility on probation, then the hesitance would be there's a clear liability issue there, but that's the reluctance is it's written in the law that it's the responsibility of probation. I can't speak for the chief, I can't speak for county council, but that's the way I see it.
And I think the chief will answer to some of that. I think what I'm hearing here though too is I know we've went through this with like the whole SB 129 with the governor and budget and so now with these welfare and institution codes, I'm wondering if it goes a little bit deeper. So yeah, Chief, if you could answer some of the questions, that would be great.
Sure. Good morning. Thank you, Commissioner Shipp, for steering us back to what I thought was the question at hand, which was essentially presented by the board saying, here we have yet another area in which we think another county entity can do a better job. That being providing access to the young people in our system, especially now that we have folks with us for a longer term access to post-secondary education. That was simply the question. Should probation continue to do it or should LACO do it? And we've differed in our understanding of how we should proceed. And so probation, I am reluctant in that, like everyone else, I would like to understand how the conditions would improve. Many of the challenges that we've had with the local community colleges have not been based on their willingness, has not been based on funding. It has been based on a whole host of things, such as getting enough kids in one program, being able to do it mid-semester, a whole host of problems that frankly didn't see how LACO would improve. In fact, no idea, how that would change. It has more to do with managing the resources. And so ultimately, you're right. Probation could simply say, yeah, that's a better program. We have enough on our hands. They could do a better job. And so there hasn't been a sort of final determination. Much like you, we continue in conversations with respect to that. I think that I'm shocked by sort of some of the other dynamics. I think it's tacky of the state to weigh in on this issue. The question at hand was which county entity would be better suited. And then we have a state entity that in their opening sort of gave us a historical perspective of how the state punted and gave it to the counties, now opining and saying they know best what should be done in LA County. I don't appreciate that. I don't think it's a question for them to insert themselves into. But, to your point more specifically, which is who would provide better access, especially with respect to the funding that we receive for the young people that we have. Simply haven't been convinced that, LACO also suffers from great challenges, just like probation does. They're also a party to our state case, challenging the care that we're providing. And if you go to classrooms, I have great respect for LACO. I think they have some of the most dedicated folks in education. And if you go to work there and go to work in one of our facilities, it's because it's your vocation, right? You want to be there. Having said that, there's a lot of work to be done in the K through 12. And I haven't seen how they're better positioned to immediately make improvements in this additional area. Having said all that, the Board of Supervisors dictates. If ultimately they see fit, like in many other areas, such as programming, for LACO to take the lead because they're subject matter experts, in all likelihood, I will defer to that. And that sort of gets us over the hump of the Welfare and Institutions Code. We'd have to figure out how to do that internally via MOU, et cetera. But that's sort of probation's position at this time.
Can I ask a question, Chief? I think that the solution lies somewhere between collaborating, right? No party is probably going to be able to wholly solve some of these issues. Can you speak to your maybe appetite to collaborate with LACO to sort of bring some of these plans to fruition?
I think we already collaborate. I think the entire presentation, which is fantastic, actually shows how there are different paths to give access to our young people to get both vocational training, preparation for post-secondary education, and access to credits at the post-secondary level. That's already taking place. And so to the extent that we could strengthen the way that we organize classrooms, the way we organize access, things that we can do to increase that, I think we already do that. Really, this other question has been, how do we get more kids enrolled specifically through this one method, which has been through the community colleges and the state funding that comes for those. So we continue open. I think LACO is as well, and I don't think we've stopped that conversation.
But maybe having more of a support role and allowing LACO to lead in the ways that they've identified. Is that even a possibility, understanding there is legislation that draws some clear boundaries between responsibility?
No, I mean, probation's ultimately responsible for the kids in our care.
Yes.
But we, of course, defer all types of services such as healthcare to other entities within the county. The same thing could happen here. That's not an impossibility.
Yes, Commissioner Meredith.
Being the fossil here on the commission, I'm going to point out, going back years, we had a camp called Camp Holton, where we actually had a culinary program through Mission College. And through Mission College, subsequent to that, I know of at least 2 graduates from the compound at Silmar that graduated with AA degrees through a Probation and Mission College alliance. So in the past, there has been great collaboration there, and we did work in getting some people degrees, and one of those actually got a scholarship to go to a college up north. So there has been past precedent on that.
Yeah, and look, regardless, the collaboration has to continue. We have to work jointly to get the young people to the right place at the right time. Ultimately, that's what sinks us. I am sure there exists a world in which it would be more beneficial in order to get enough students in the same place to figure out how to get both community college and high school students and vocational students in the same place at the same time. And that really would be a collaboration with LACO and the community colleges. But I think, again, the question has been that the Board of Supervisors opened, which goes back to the efforts that they've been very clear about for a few years now, which is essentially what other departments does the county have that could do a better job at X, Y, or Z? Insert whatever it is you want. And in this particular case, we have this very narrow area, which is post-secondary education. I think either entity could do a good job. I think that part of the conversation began, I think, with a misunderstanding of how much work actually already takes place within probation to give those kids access. Room for improvement, absolutely. The challenges that exist, I think, have more to do with, again, coordinating between not even the different districts, but different sort of campuses within districts, and then the number of kids per class.
Go ahead, Commissioner Harris.
Chief, would you agree that it's not just access? I mean, I believe you have a PhD. Like it's depth, right? It's not just you can sit there for an hour, we're going to transport you over, or we're going to bring a computer in for an hour, but it's depth of thought. And what I heard from the LACO folks that are here and from Third Way Solutions is that they're prepared to think in depth about these things and the 3 different areas that they talked about, CTE, dual enrollment, and the third one, and STEM. And that the consultant from Third Way Solutions made a number of conclusions that I didn't feel, and we can ask him if he's still on the live stream, that they're not currently happening with probation education services. What the opportunity is that they have identified is not just, and I wrote it down, it's not just about governance, but the opportunity is larger, and it's a chance to redesign systems around students. And what I heard today in these presentations is that there's a very clear path for that. There's strategic thinking, there's strategic planning, there's thinking about budget, funding, data, all of these things. And Mr. Williams and you are sort of talking about access and the law versus this depth of education that we all know is so important to getting, an education and to that, less than 1% recidivism that Dr. Massa was talking about that, it is so critical. So question for you is, one, do you believe it's beyond just access, and you feel and you're committed to the idea that probation education services is capable of going beyond access and doing the depth of educating that we heard today from LACO? And 2, is your legal position that I know the last time we were here, there was this question around the WIC code and responsibility. Do you believe that that question has been resolved? You feel you know the legal answer to that, and that it is currently a barrier unless you acquiesce? Do those two questions, are they clear?
Yeah, so no, I'm not 100% clear with
Okay.
respect to the legal question in the sense that, I don't have a county analysis in my possession with respect to this, so
Okay.
I'd have to defer to them. With respect to the second one, probation is, not just a bunch of simpletons that provide safety and security and are not part of the total rehabilitation process. That's just not an adequate and appropriate description of what probation does. And probation manages sort of tremendous, complicated, does a lot of thinking on how to get to the students from the point that they're received. And so when you describe what probation does, it's really using the tools that we best have, dynamic tools included after they're with us, to determine what their needs are and how to best provide them what they need in very simple terms. So I think that in terms of designing a model that best reaches the needs of those that are with us, nobody has a corner on that. What we have is best practices from other places. But I always say what probation really focuses on is in results versus simply being able to, put it together in a PowerPoint. And so when we're not here, it's not simply those two items that I mentioned, because I'm mentioning some of the sort of incredibly difficult things to solve that are, at the end of the day, how do you get sufficient number of kids to the right place to be able to offer that, right? That doesn't mean that's how we begin the design and we start thinking about young people's needs and about how to do presentations and what we lack is measurement of outcomes. We're not alone in that. I think that really almost all the agencies that we collaborate with lack outcome data, which really should be what, if we're going to talk about redesigning, the popular thing today is let's start fresh, as if we have no current knowledge or experience as to provide these services. What I would say is let's start putting to the test with respect to real outcomes and having independent folks take a look at those data sets. Because there are a whole host of programs that sound like a great idea, in which we have sort of narrative responses for people on how it had an impact on them. But we're not coming back to you. What you deserve the most is, this was the cost of doing this, and this is the real outcome. And then, decision points from that, from then on.
Thank you.
Follow-up question. Do you have the data that Third Way Solutions needs that they mentioned in their presentation? Maybe Mr. Williams is better equipped to answer that, but is that available? And are you planning on giving it to them so that they can continue this analysis?
We've provided all of the data that was requested of us. This is new to me that there's some pending data that Education Services was tasked with providing that didn't provide.
And I'm wondering also, so that we can remove any obstacles along the way, if we can get an opinion on Welfare Institution Code 898.2 from County Council right now. So this way, should something come up along the way, we have the opinion of County Council that would not be an obstacle.
I think it's actually Welfare Institutions Code 858.
Oh, 858. Thank you.
I mean, Mr. Williams referenced 898, but I believe it's 858.
It's 858 and 898.2. 898.2 actually spells it out a bit clearer.
Okay, so there seems to be two. So yes, County Council? Okay, so if I could make a motion that we could get the opinion of County Council on Welfare and Institution Code 858 and 898.2. Would anybody like to second my motion? Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Second it. Take an aye vote. Okay. So thank you so much. Commissioners, any more questions before we move on to, yes, Commissioner Kakani?
Yeah, I don't know if the representative from Third Way Solutions is still on. I think so. Okay, great. Sorry, let me just go back to my notes. You had kind of shared this beautiful, like, I don't know, diagram around data that probation could provide, and education data that could be provided for us to really build something that is quite student-centered. And I was just wondering if there are any other jurisdictions, whether here in California or elsewhere, that kind of embody this model that you're discussing.
Thank you for the question, Commissioner. The answer is, well, in two parts for me. First is I am not the resident expert on the Third Way Solutions team on model policies, and so I will follow up in writing, but my high-level answer today is that yes, there are examples and models in parts from various jurisdictions across the country that we have begun compiling in the background, and ultimately think that there's something better than any example that we have currently found possible with the right collaboration and data sharing agreements and environments across systems.
Great, thanks. I look forward to seeing that. And then I think, if I heard correctly, I may have misheard the chief refer to Dr. Masa's either presence or OIACR's presence or contribution as tacky. I may have misheard. And I just want to reiterate that I woefully disagree. And I think that the state's expertise on what is happening in other jurisdictions is something that we would absolutely want, given that we are the only jurisdiction, the only county that does it this way. It's my understanding that every other county has their Office of Education running higher education, learning offerings, whatever it's referred to as. And I think, again, we are the only county that is in the middle of a DOJ lawsuit. And the list goes on and on, operating unlawful facilities, et cetera. So I think we have a lot to learn from OICR in terms of best practices and from a public health approach and how other jurisdictions are doing it. So thank you for being here. Just wanted to make that note. And then lastly, Mr. Williams, you stated that there were 25 young people who received their associate's degree. I mean, that could mean so many things. Is it 25 out of 500? Is it 25? 25 out of 25, what is the time period? I just feel like when we're talking about data, we kind of need some more parameters. So if there is, yes, 25 young people have received their associate's degree, do we have data on how many young people leave our carceral facilities and then enroll in either, associate's degree programs or higher education programs? Do we have any data on how many young people actually graduate from those higher education programs? Anything. And then also related to that, I believe I asked Mr. Corral for this information when he was last here, but you talked about young people receiving 4 hours of education at LP, even 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon. But when we were there, they had received 45 minutes of a CPR class. It wasn't 2 hours. And so access, again, to a laptop is not actually access to education or quality instruction. And so if we have information even related to how many of the facilities are offering live instruction, that would be really helpful. How many of the facilities offer courses that actually go to general education requirements? How many, that would be a great start. And just again, as it relates to that 25 number for associate's degree recipients, what is that out of? I think that would be helpful too.
I assume that this is something that we will go back, provide a more specific response and send it in. Okay.
Great, thanks.
Can you hear me? All right. And this is just my last thing, and I think this is what everybody is here is trying to get at. And and OICR is trying to make this point. I think LACO, the board, everybody is trying to make this point, and maybe this is something you all can come back to. But what we're trying to find out is, since probation has some reluctance, or they are answering this question, and based on your analysis, is the current status quo satisfying enough for us and for our young people? That is the real question that we are trying to get to. And even if you all feel like you don't know the answer or anything, I will write the white paper myself on this. But is the current status quo better than LACO taking it over, or bolstering what we're doing, or following OICR's recommendation? Is the current status quo of what our young people are facing with this 1 hour, maybe 45 minutes of class, better than trying to do something different than what we've been doing? And you don't have to answer it right now, but I need an answer to whether this current status quo is the answer that probation is okay with.
Thank you. And I have a question for Mr. Hawkes.
I will apologize that I mispronounced his name because I'm a basketball fan. That is my excuse. He introduced himself as Jakes.
Alex. So I have a question. You mentioned in your presentation that I guess you were still lacking data, but then in Mr. Williams' presentation, they felt they had provided all the data. And so I'm wondering right now here in this meeting if we can just resolve that, and if you can clarify what data you are waiting on, and that's why you're not able to move forward because you're waiting on this. And when did you notify them? Can we get like some clarification on that, and maybe even help to move that along, since I guess you feel that right now is your holdup? Alex.
Thank you, Ms. Canales. We did pursue additional data, explored multiple avenues for obtaining a more complete picture. However, we were explicitly informed that several foundational data points were not available, including site level enrollment in programming, student performance within programming, and graduate versus non-graduate counts by site. And so given the absence of these baseline measures, we reached a point where the available data wasn't sufficient to answer many of the key planning questions we were trying to solve. So rather than continue investing time in pursuing an incomplete understanding of the current state, we shifted our focus to designing an ideal future state and identifying the operational governance and data conditions needed to make that vision successful. Because I was not up in the sauce of the full sort of data request conversation, am happy to follow up with the specifics about our process and various conversations over the past several months with a member of our team, if that would be helpful to this body.
Would LACO or OICR like to make any concluding comments?
I'll jump in while LACO gets theirs together. But first and foremost, I just want to apologize if anything that I've communicated came off as tacky or in any way a lack of respect for probation. That is not my intent. In fact, I've received a letter of commendation from probation for being a first responder to someone that did succumb to a medical situation. And I've worked arm in arm with probation during COVID when everything went on lockdown. I was at Central every single day, honoring the relationships that I had with so many probation officers. But I also want to clarify, I'm not offering any opinion. If you look at the report that probation submitted, their realignment report, 2025, their most current report, I'm regurgitating the information that's in the report. Probation has acknowledged LACO as the driver of education services, even in the higher ed space. So I just want to clarify that it's in writing. Everyone has access to it. Go to the OICR report. And I started my comment acknowledging how amazing it was that the LACO presentation was so student-centered, that the third way solution presentation was putting students at the center of the conversation. And You know, I think we can do better in LA County with all the amazing people we have who are so committed to our kids. And we've seen what those outcomes look like when we work together. And that's the spirit I'm trying to bring to this conversation. I think the entities here will determine what's going to be best for LA County, and whatever information we can offer as far as best practices across the state, it's all in an effort to make sure that our kids get the best that we all know they deserve. So those are my comments.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. I did not perceive anything that you said earlier as tacky, but
Understood. Thank you.
commissioners, Leiko, I'm sorry for that. Yes.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I will be very brief. I just want to make sure the LACO team is here today, and we were excited to show and share the work we are doing with our high school students and we plan on doing, because one thing is very clear, it's always a process of continuous improvement. What we have very clear as well is that we need to truly build the best program for our high school students in terms of not just the quality of the teaching and learning that is happening every day in our classrooms, but also opportunities for STEM, for career technical education and dual enrollment. In no way, shape, or form we are here to contest or question the work that our partners from Probation are doing currently with our graduates. So we truly value always that partnership. The ask from LACO was very clear, and we are engaging in that exploratory work so that we truly understand what current gaps are and what would be the pillars for a successful implementation. We know we need to be very intentional and truly understand what it would take in terms of staffing and funding and resources. It's a big task. We are talking about students, we are talking about their future, so we want to be very intentional and we need to be successful for them on how we build that coherence from custody to reentry if we were to take over that responsibility. So again, thank you for the opportunity to let us know, to let us come here and share with you the work we are doing. Thanks.
Thank you, commissioners. Any more comments or questions? Okay, now pass to Wendy.
We're going to go to public comment on this item. If you're in the room and would like to make a public comment, we welcome that. Each person will have 2 minutes. If you're online, use the little hand icon or dial *3 on your phone and we'll call you. Welcome.
Hi, good morning. My name is Carmelita Ramirez Sanchez. I'm the Executive Director of Boyle Heights Arts Conservatory. We run paid workforce training programs inside BJN and AfroBo. And to that end, one of the challenges that we find is that when our young men come home after being inside 10 to 14 months, they're coming home without high school diplomas. So it makes it challenging to hear a conversation about post-secondary conversations. And one of our tasks is as soon as they come home, we get them or try to get them enrolled to at least finish their high school diploma. There's not really any communication with LACO. There isn't any way to continue those conversations. So we're really relying on young people to bring their own information. I love the conversation on post-secondary. We enroll our young people, those that are interested in whether it's PCC or ELAC or Trade Tech, all of that. However, there is a definite disconnect when they're coming home and they don't even have the credentials to enroll into post-secondary. So that is something that I hope we can work together and really address in a way. We have to address it while they're inside. I can't address it when they're outside. I'm flying blind here. But that really is my only comment. Let's talk about post-secondary, absolutely, but the pre-secondary isn't being handled all the time. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. First off, my name is Thomas Bell. I just want to say 25 people receiving their AA degree should be applauded, never questioned, no matter how many people it is. Those are young men who decided to take their education higher, and you guys did a good job getting them there. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Probation services do an amazing job. They do an amazing job. I can mainly speak for my camp. Those guys are always on point, always serving them kids. The presentation we saw was cool. It was good. But the problem is, how do you get them kids there? That presentation ain't gonna get them kids into them services, taking them classes. How do you get them there? Is third way going to get them there? I've seen the probation services, they come to the dorm when the kids refuse. Talk to them one-on-one. The next thing you know, they're grabbing their books. Hey, I'm going to class. They go the extra mile to get these kids to their college classes. We can have all of those special programs that we want, but if they don't show up, it's easy to teach your class when no one's there. It's easy to teach your class and have all these programs if you have one or two kids show up. But these guys, and you know, I can really speak for Alpha Ball, they do the extra mile to make sure these kids are getting what they need. I go into the classroom, I see them sitting right next to the kid, helping them out, doing this, talking to them. I don't even want to interrupt them. You know, kid needs mental health, he's going to the class, I feel bad interrupting them because they're actually learning and doing stuff. So to hear, oh, take it away and give it to LACO, and I'm not bad-mouthing LACO, you know, I like the teachers there too. But to take it away and give it to LACO, that's and discredit what they're doing, that's pretty insulting. You know, if I was him, I'll feel a little insulted about it. You know, but they're doing an amazing job. I just want you to know that.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having us as guests. Mauricio Murado, Deputy Probation Officer, SYTF. I appreciate the collaboration we all have, obviously, with Probation Education Services. You guys over there, LACO, everybody's very vested into the future well-being of these young youth we have. I just want to give kudos to my coworkers and my line staff officers at Barry J, who we're putting in 17, 20,000 steps a day, getting these kids to their classes, college, post-secondary stuff, whatever it may be. And it's difficult to coordinate. I don't think people that are in an institution realize the visiting center, attorney visits, social workers, dentist, x-ray, mental health, other education stuff, court, transportation, movements around school. There's so much going on in that facility. Just to let you know, we are doing the very best we can to get these kids what they need and what they want regarding education and all kinds of other stuff. I just wanted to give my people credit, you guys some accolades as well. Very difficult environment we were working in, extremely difficult. Your teachers have it rough. We're in the classrooms with them as well, all the time. Diffusing, de-escalating, counseling, getting your people involved, working together. Hopefully, we could all work together.
That's the end of our in-person public comment. Do we have any online commenters? Okay, we have one caller. You can dial *6 on your phone. Call-in user, if you can dial *6. You're unmuted on our side, but we can't hear you. Okay, that's it. Okay, thank you. So,
Okay. Thank you so much. And now if we can call the roll for the motion about getting opinion from County Council about the Welfare and Institution Code 858 and 898.2.
I'm sorry, I should have said this before I handed it back to you. We've clarified it as 889.2. Just the two digits were flipped. So yes, so it's 858 and 889.2.
Okay, got it.
That's the motion made by Chair Canales and seconded by Commissioner Jackson. We do. I'm hesitating just because Commissioner Jackson has stepped out of the room. Has she? She's gone. Okay, so we'll go ahead and take the vote with Commissioner Jackson absent. Thank you. All right, so please vote yes, no, or abstain on the motion to receive an official county council opinion. Commissioner Harris, Commissioner Kokani, Commissioner Meredith, Commissioner Shipp, Commissioner Canales, So with a vote of 5-0, with Commissioners Jackson, Prater, and Terry absent, the motion passes unanimously.
Okay. Okay, Commissioners, any further comments or questions? All right, with that, thank you panelists for joining us for this agenda item. We are now going to move for a short break before we proceed to the next agenda item. Are there any objections to that? Okay, with no objections, it's 11:29 a.m. We will come back at 11:39 a.m., a short 10-minute break. Thank you. Okay, so we are now going to move on to agenda item number 3, where we will take and discuss possible action on an update from the Probation Oversight Commission's Budget Ad Hoc Committee regarding the Probation Department's proposed budget for fiscal year 26 through 27. Joining us to give verbal reports are Chief Vera Rosa, Probation's Administrative Deputy Stacy Lopez Maddox will be appearing virtually on WebEx, and Commissioner Brooke Harris, who will report on the POC's Budget Ad Hoc Committee's progress. Attached to the agenda are reference documents on this topic from previous POC meetings. Commissioner Harris, can you please start us off?
Sure, thank you. So I just want to set the stage a little bit about the budget subcommittee and what we're going to focus on today. What the purpose of this committee is to try to discern and understand, and to quote Ms. Lopez Maddox at a meeting from April, if the budget, if there's a nexus between the proper services for the right amount of funding that you have. To thread the needle a little bit, Commissioner Shipp, in our last conversation about education, wants the answer to something, about probation education services and their ability to lead secondary education. And so that's part of the budget, right? We want, what we're trying to answer here with this subcommittee is, to have a transparent and clear understanding of what the department's budget is, what the money that's actually spent and the money that's passed through, and then the services that youth and adult receive, to see if all of that is right-sized. There have been 2 motions with respect to the budget committee. The first I made in September of 2025 to learn more about consultants that the department has utilized. Took over several months, but we have received the information that we've requested. We have significant concerns about the information that we've received. We are investigating those concerns, and we will report back to the POC at a future meeting, hopefully quite soon. And then in April of 2026, Commissioner Kakani made a motion request to obtain the following. 1, the current number of vacant positions and a breakdown by item. 2, a breakdown of probation's budget explaining the dollars that probation passes through to other county departments and other outside organizations. C, a breakdown of the costs of coming into compliance with the DOJ settlement and the implementation of the depopulation plan. And 4, a report on how probation spent budgeted dollars for vacant positions in the 2024-2025 fiscal year and to date in the 2025-2026 fiscal year to cover other departmental expenses. The Probation Oversight Commission staff made the request based on Commissioner Kakani's motion to Ms. Lopez Maddox. We have received some limited information from her. The budget subcommittee met to review the responses, and we've made updated requests of the department so that we can obtain the information that we need and would like to present to the public. I believe Ms. Lopez Maddox is here today. She's going to share, I don't believe she has a response to our updated request, but she is going to be able to share some limited information, and then we can have a discussion about that information and the information we still need. So I'll turn it over to her.
Good morning, commissioners. Thank you for having me this morning. I'm going to do this without my camera because last time I had some challenges. So Commissioner Harris, we did submit, as you mentioned, the list of vacancies at that point in time, which was May 7th. And then also a breakdown of the budget was also provided. As I mentioned in the April meeting, that most of our funding, a lot of our funding goes to other departments. And so we did provide that breakdown showing the difference between what is probation, goes to probation, and then what goes to other departments that service our youth. The one item that is still outstanding is the DOJ settlement and implementation of the DPOP plan, which we are working on that as well. As I mentioned in the April meeting, it's been very challenging to gather all of the funding that's been that we've been using for DOJ settlement, but we are working and putting something in place so that that doesn't happen any longer moving forward, and we should be able to give you a full report of what we're spending for that. So that will be coming. We also did share how we were using using vacancies to partially fund over expenditures and overtime and departmental expenses. As I've reported before, our overtime is significant due to our staffing challenges. We're hoping with the changes that we've recently made with staffing that will be decreasing, and we'll continue to see it decrease as we brought people back to work and also made some reassignments as I spoke about in April. I did receive the questions regarding the follow-up regarding all of the documentation that we had sent to you back in May. And so we are working on that. So I don't have that today, but I did want to mention something also about our vacancies. And I noticed that, the POC is asking by item and by location. We are in the process right now of doing a reorganization, as I think you all are aware, because the chief and I both talked about it in April when we were there. And so I would like all of that to be completed, and then we can do a full report on where all our vacancies are, where the filled positions are by program, by item. We're going to do a complete item reconciliation, which is what we're working on now. So I can give a report as of today, but in 30 days, that's going to change because we have moved, we're continuing to move staff around the department to meet our compliance with regards to staffing. So I did want to bring that up to you all, and also so the public is aware too. And again, the DPOP plan and the money the funding that we've been spending on all of that will be coming as well. I would like the opportunity to talk with the commission regarding the consulting contracts. I know that's been we've talked some about that over in the past, and then, it keeps coming up that we're going to talk about it, but I hope that you guys give us an opportunity to weigh in as well on that piece. So I'm happy to take any questions from anybody. Thank you.
Well, I would thank you for that response. I would ask that if you could just, for the responses that you have given, if you could just highlight those at least for the public so that we can hear some of the actual responses. I know they've been provided to us, but it would be helpful to hear from you some of those things. I am okay personally, given the reorganization, we could, knowing that it's going to look different with respect to the vacancies, to get that information at a later time. I don't want to lose focus on that, but I understand that it is changing. So if you could just give some broad level overviews of the information that you have responded, and that would be helpful. And, I think it's premature to talk about the consultant contracts, but we certainly will be in communication about that.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so I can talk about point in time vacancies. We had submitted, this is for the public's information, we had submitted a list of our vacancies, which was at the point in time we ran at 1,467, and that was department wide, and we had it broken down by item for the commission. A breakdown of our budget is also available to the public. So that is on the public website. So we have that broken down, so I'm happy to share that as well. And then again, on the talking about, how we're spent budgeted dollars for vacant positions in our past fiscal year and then current fiscal year. Again, for the public's information, these vacancies that we are partially funding over expenditures with overtime and departmental expenses. So if just for the public's awareness, we have a significant amount of overtime that is used every month because of our staffing constraints. And so we have to fund that in some way. And so we have been using vacancies to fund that. And also departmental expenses. And again, support services, as I mentioned when I spoke at the April meeting, our departmental expenses have increased because of the the increases in costs for all of the departments also that we are contracted with for the various services for our youth. And I think that covers that. Commissioner Harris, is there anything else that you wanted me to cover? I'd be happy to. And again, all of this is public information.
Hi, Ms. Lopez Maddox. I was wondering if perhaps when this is next scheduled, if you'd be able to be here in person. It's just a little, I don't know, awkward to have to look at I don't even know, an empty box on a screen. If that might be possible, I think it would be really helpful. I'm not sure if LA County is far from where you reside, but hopefully with enough notice, you'll be able to be here.
If I have enough notice, absolutely, I'll be there in person.
Okay. Just curious. Okay. Separate conversation. As much as like you shared that this information is public, the part that isn't public is also like the funding stream. So I know on May 3rd, you provided a list of, I don't know, 1,400 approximately vacancies, account clerk 1, account clerk 2, accountant 2, accountant 3. It would be also helpful to know the funding stream, whether these are being funded by net county costs, whether this is through the Youth Offender Block Grant, like how it is the department is funding these positions, because that part is not publicly available, kind of like, where the dollars are coming from. So of the...
Yeah, of course. We can break that down. Most of it is NCC funded, but there are some that are revenue funded. So we can definitely break that down.
Okay. And I think you had also shared kind of a lump sum. I'm trying to find it in my notes, but I can't. A lump sum of money that the department passes through. But there's zero specificity in terms of how much is passed through and for what purposes is passed through. So whether it's passed through to DMH, whether it's passed through to Juvenile Court Health Services, whether it's passed through to a community-based organization, that part, and I think the motion requested kind of not just the amount that's passed through, but like which department and for what, if I recall correctly. But if not,
that was part of the document that we submitted. So it was the last page of the budget breakdown, and it showed the different departments that all of our funding goes to, and then the total cost of what probation actually is funded for, and then what are the other departments receiving. That was on page 4 of the budget breakdown.
Okay, I had a specific question.
It was with the
looking for I see it. I'm just looking. Yeah, I was looking for the. I see. Yeah, I see page 4 of the probation department final adopted budget. But if there's like any additional specificity, right? Like, so if we're, for example, I'm just looking at this, from 25, 26, or even if we're just looking at actuals, right? From 24 to 25, the probation department seems to have passed through almost 20 million to the sheriff's department, right? Kind of like having kind of a sense of what that means would be really helpful, like some sort of delineation
of the type of services. Is that what you're asking? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, exactly. So like the youth development, 240,000. What service that is for, that would be helpful.
That was not the original request, but we can absolutely do that.
Okay, great, thank you. And then I'm just sorry. And then I think you had provided, of the, I don't know what these numbers mean. So there's like, you had shared, I think that, sorry, lots of tabs open here. So like, for example, of there's a, hold on, I think it was printed and it might be attached. Yes. The breakdown of filled vacancies. So for the field, for example, there are 732 vacant positions. Is that juvenile field, adult field, AB 109? I mean, just kind of, again, having like a more in-depth breakdown would be helpful. And then you have institutions, and the only 2 institutions that are listed are Hall Los Padrinos and then institutions SYTF Barry J. So does this mean that there are no other vacancies in any of the other facilities?
So that was the document. I just did a snapshot and sent that over just so you all would have it today. But again, I want to make sure that when the dust settles on our reorg, that we can give you a full picture of that. So we will do that, because again, really that's just as of today. And so again, it's going to change once we finish this reorg. So then we'll give you the full picture breakdown. Again, the item reconciliation, all of that will be available.
Okay.
It's
Well,
just
I
not
would
going to do, it won't do any good today, to be honest, because we're moving people, as we speak. So that's why I'm saying, like, I'd rather we can give you a full picture.
Right, and I guess just in anticipation of what we might be provided, I'm requesting that it be broken down by whether it's office, whether it's, I don't know, CSEC, 241.1. I'm not sure how you all break it down as it relates to the field, and then as it relates to the institutions, not just two of the many, but if it can be broken down per institution.
We can do it that way, and where the funding's coming from.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioners, any more questions or comments? Yes.
I asked this question, I think, a little bit last time when Deanna Carlisle was here, and maybe you still don't have an answer to it, but is there any answer? If not, and maybe you could figure this out for me, whether their designation changes as you make the changes to the field, like would they be come from being a field officer to, and then they're working in the halls, would they be designated in that count? Or what does that change look like? And is there a budget amount that comes with that change, or some type of way that you all are allocating money towards that? Or is the money standing within the field, or are you using funds from the Barry J bucket? Like, I would love a breakdown of that situation.
Yeah, of course, Commissionership. So a DPO1 is a DPO1. So whether they're working in the field or in the halls and camps. So that's their essential functions. All of that stays the same depending on where they work. Their duty statement might be slightly different because of the work they do, but it's essentially the same position in both areas. And the funding piece, we can have that for you, but we don't break it down necessarily by program area. It's all one part of probation's budget for staffing, but we can definitely identify like where the items are, what location, like Commissioner Kakani was asking for, but it's all one big pot of money that we use for probation and for the staffing.
Sorry, just one more question. I just, salary savings kind of tied with vacant positions, just for the public's benefit, right? Like if there are 467 vacant positions, that means that is a position for which there is money, but no human, right? And then probation can kind of use those dollars with some flexibility, whether it's for overtime, whether it's for, I don't even know, capital projects, whether it's for whatever it's for. And so I am just, again, I believe this was communicated, but just reiterating that it would be super helpful if, as it relates to the salary savings, there is a really clear breakdown, not just how much it was for, but if it's overtime, for which facility, if it's for purchase services, via contracting, like what the contract was for, if it's for capital projects, what that capital project was. So I think that breakdown would be helpful because it is a very large sum of money.
Yeah, we can do that. We just don't have it today. I just got that request on Monday, so we will have that for you. We're working on it now.
Any more comments or questions from the commissioners before we go on to public comment? Okay, with that, Wendy.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us, Stacy. We're going to go on to public comment. If there's anyone in the room who'd like to make public comment about the budget, you're welcome to, or online, use the raise your hand function. Do we have any online? Oh, please.
Not that tall. Good morning. My name is Philip Goldner. I'm here on behalf of 685. Last time I was here, I was speaking when Mr. Smythe was just leaving his post, and now he's at USC, a professor, and we still have the same issue. The question I asked him was, is it strategically better to run more overtime and to pay that rather than hiring new officers and such. And not only that, but how long is it taking to get a new recruit all the way through the academy and into the field, excuse me. So these are the things, it's like you can't, it comes from somewhere. Like you're gonna pay more in overtime, right? Or you're gonna hire more people to fill the positions. So what would probation's position be as far as which strategy is working better?
Do we have any online public commenters? Okay. I'm going to go to you next, but I just wanted to tell the commissioners, if you want to ask Ms. Lopez-Maddox to respond to that question, you're welcome to do so. Please go ahead and make your comments.
Good morning again, Mr. Moreau. DPO1s are not in the field. I know the woman that was just speaking beforehand. No, DPO1s were assigned to residential treatment to work the camps. And most of us that were in the camps are now in SYTF. So we haven't demoted, but we've just been moved around. What's interesting to me is that now it's like we're one size fits all. So the field staff are now in the halls, camp staff are now in the halls, but they're DPO2s. Me and a lot of colleagues have been DPO1s for 13 years. Performing the job at high levels, doing everything we're supposed to do, but hey, we're kind of stagnant and stuck with no promotions. And clearly there's money around. People retiring in record numbers, month by month. And here we are, trying to get our promotions, trying to move up. They're hiring some new staff with a promise of, what did they call it, promotions and movement. Those people aren't going to promote. They're not promoting us. They've been sitting around for 12, 13 years. I think they're lying to these new staff, which is kind of unfortunate. But we're helping these new folks any way we can. And they got to figure out what they're going to do with some of us that are trying to hold on. And we're committed, trained, dedicated, smart. Us line staff been dragged through the mud, kind of tired of it. Hoping we could stick around and get the support of some people, because we need everybody's help.
Thank you so much for that. Before we move on to the phone public comment, Ms. Maddox, if you would like to respond to this, but before you do respond, I would just like to ask Mr. Goldberg, I believe it is, right? I remember when you came to the meeting, and it was some time ago, and you brought up the issues then, because it really stayed with me. What resonated with me is like if I would have a personal event after work where people were counting on me, but then you go to work jeopardizing that you might not even be able to leave. And we had an HR presentation, and then when I hear the chief's update to the board talking about how smooth the transitions are going, but then it raises some confusion. But you are here today, and I want to know, when was the last time you were here, and has it improved, or how do you see it from that perspective? Yes, thank you. And then if Ms. Maddox, if you would like to answer the questions.
Thank you for your question, ma'am. I don't recall, it's been a while since, obviously, we could find out what Mr. Smythe, when he left. But you're asking me on the ground level, do I see a difference from back then to today? And
yeah, because that was an issue then.
Right. So the difference is that, now supervisors are here. So we have more supervisors, but they're not doing the line work. They're not doing our work, right? We still have a lot of trepidation when the weekends come because there's no staffing. When we show up in the parking structure and there are no cars, and I wonder, is it like a free day? No, it's not, of course. And so before we even start our shift, you're held over. That's stressful right there. I mean, you're supposed to, they have until about noon to let us know. I'm the 6 a.m. shift, right? So they have about till noon to hold us over. No, we're held over like now, like that we already know. And you're right. What happens if we have a commitment later? You have to figure it out. Some people have FMLA, right? That's supposed to be respected. But it's stressful. And has anything improved? No. The weekends are still, not staffed very well. And Yeah, it is stressful to a lot of us. I don't have young kids anymore, but for the ones that have young kids, you can imagine if you have to pick your kid up from school or something like that and you're held over, and now you have to make a choice, are you going to stay or are you going to go get your kid or something like that?
Right, yes.
That's not fun at all. It's very stressful.
Yeah, no, understandable. Thank you so much for that clarity. And I think it's been about like 6 months now from the last meeting. But as you said, we could look into the date. And Ms. Maddox, because, this is the budget, and I think it's something for the public's concern and for everybody's concern. And then especially when we do hear the updates given to the Board of Supervisors. And how would you respond to that?
Well, I'm not sure what his question was, but I will say that from a budget standpoint and a wellness standpoint, we shouldn't be the overtime shouldn't be happening. It's just not something that our employees should be going through. We're budgeted for $10 million in overtime. We're spending 65 to 69 million a year on overtime. And I see the numbers, I see what people are working. And I understand that the folks standing up, they're working it, they're filling in. I mean, we need to fill our vacancies and get them help. We need to bring people back to work, which we've been doing, understanding that folks have things that they have going on in their lives. But it's definitely a wellness issue to have this much overtime being used and worked within the facilities. So, I mean, that's what we're trying to, correct here and take care of people. And I understand that, there's so many people that are working double shifts, and it's really not good for folks and not good for their families. So, while I hear it, that I heard him say something about it maybe being more cost effective, but it's really not. And we do need to fill our vacancies and get people back to work so that we can relieve the folks who have truly been working, these shifts and working very hard for probation.
Harris, yes.
Just to follow up to the other public comment that was made about the lack of promotion and someone staying in a DPO 1 level for 12 to 13 years. I mean, we don't want to lose that person. And this is not the first time we've heard this comment. I spoke to a number of terrific officers at Dorothy Kirby last year. Same thing. No one wants to work for 13 years with no promotion. I mean, that's just not, no one wants that, right? And so what is, if you can answer, what is the plan for promotions, given, retention is an issue, and it's more cost effective and beneficial to, promote people that are actively engaged and working and going to work and willing to be held over and all of the things that we're hearing that a lot of folks are doing. And if you can answer what the plan is in the budget, I'm not asking you what the HR plan is, but with respect to the budget, if you have an answer for that comment.
All right, Commissioner Harris, are you asking, like, do we have funding to promote folks? Is that what you're asking me?
Yes.
Yes, I mean, we do, because we have positions that are vacant and opportunities for people to promote. But I wouldn't want to comment on an individual's, personal history and how they got there or why they're there. Because I obviously don't know the individual that was speaking or his background, but there's definitely opportunities for folks to promote, and that's happening in the department.
It's not.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, can you, I see there's engagement that is not happening. I'm not asking you to comment on individual people. What I was saying from the public comment was that I have heard this from many DPO ones that 13 years is a long time, and so I if you could tell us with specificity what in the budget is allotted for those promotions, and if you know the process for opening up, and again, not asking you to comment on anyone specific, but what the plan is to open up promotions on a large scale for people that may be in this situation.
We have promotional exams going on now for DPO2 TNCs. So what I'm saying is we have exams happening. We have vacancies available for people to promote into. So that's all part of our current budget. So, I mean, that's all I can speak to that, because again, I don't know individuals, what they're trying to promote to, but there are opportunities for promotions. Absolutely.
Oh, it would be interesting. Is there any way to collect data, like who has been a DPO1 that has been in the same position for a decade or longer, without any write-ups or anything like that, without any, and if we could collect the data for those that have been in those positions for a decade or longer, and then look into the reasoning behind no promotion, and where is that stemming from? Does it come from a management, administration, a higher level? I mean, somewhere there's a missing link there that I think we can all work together in getting to the bottom of this, because right now it seems that nobody has the answers. It seems that, and so until we start looking in depth to get those answers. So don't you think that's a good suggestion, Ms. Maddox? Yes, go ahead.
If I might make a suggestion, in the past, the Probation Oversight Commission has selected a group of less than quorum to have a meeting in between meetings with line staff and representatives from the unions. Perhaps this would be an opportunity to do that again, to get some more details about this question and be able to organize a request that's more formalized about what the questions are. That's just a possibility, as just to remind you of something you all have done before.
Commissioner Kokani, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I like that idea a lot. I was just looking at this document with the vacancies, right? And so I'm seeing Deputy Probation Officer 2 field 491 vacancies. I don't know what that means, right? Like, are they vacant as of this year? Have they been vacant for 10 years? And so I wonder if like an additional, I mean, I get that you're doing this reorg or whatever it's called in the next 30 days, but it would be helpful to know how long these positions have been vacant for, as they are. And then kind of like what is prohibiting people from moving into them? Like, I don't get how you have 491 DPO2 field officer vacancies, and literally every time we're inside a facility, you're talking to someone who's been deployed to the facility, who then shares that they've been a DPO1 for 12 years, 18 years, whatever it is, some really lengthy period of time. And maybe it's just that I don't understand how the county works and how, how one would then be promoted in like usual circumstances versus county circumstances. I don't know if there's some clarity that we could provide or that we could gain and then share. If that makes sense.
Commissioner Meredith?
Commissioner Meredith just said that Wendy's suggestion is really good.
Clarification purposes.
I agree.
That's
I
what
agree,
happens
Wendy.
when you don't speak into the microphone. I'm going to speak for you. We actually do have one more public commenter online. Sorry. We have Sylvia Cardenas who raised her hand, who's going to speak. Just give me 1 second. I'm dragging this out so that we can unmute you. Yes. Okay, you're unmuted, Sylvia. I'm wondering if it's on our end. No? Okay. All right. So that is the end of public comment. You can go back to commissioner comments, but
Okay, and commissioners, any more comments or statements before we move on to agenda item 6, right? I have one more question. So another thing that you mentioned, Mr. Goldberger, is while there has been an increase in hiring supervisors, everybody has seen that supervisors, of course, it's much different than the line staff that are there. And I'm wondering, I know I've been on site, and I know probation's going to get an upper right now. I have been on site where I've seen some supervisors never come out of the office, while I have also been on site to see supervisors on the ground in every unit, opening the gates, doing escorts. But then I have seen the ones that that do not come out of the office, and that the line staff don't even know who it is that day. This is something that I've experienced. I'm not saying it happens all the time. So I'm wondering if there's an expectation from these supervisors that there's been an increase of to go out there amongst the line staff, to work in the units, to open some doors and some gates, or what is the expectation there, Ms. Maddox?
Again, working with our supervisory and management staff, that's something we have to do internally. So, we continue to do that because we have challenges in those areas. So we just have to keep on the things, what the expectations are, and ensure that things are getting, done as they should be at that level. So we're continuing to work on that because there's definitely challenges with our supervisors and some of our management.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Goldberg, before we close. Oh,
we're done?
Oh, may I just correct you? You said hiring supervisor, but it's transferring supervisor.
Brooke wanted to say something.
There's an opportunity for public comment at the end.
Okay, so we're going to move on to agenda item number 6. There is opportunity for you to come and all give your feedback. And I said it's okay, but I still had to say some things that I saw. So for agenda item 6, we will discuss and take possible action on a report by Executive Director Wendy Julian. This report will include updates on outstanding and current requests for information, an analysis of probation's data, and a brief overview of the Campus Kilpatrick inspection, which will we be voting to approve. Wendy, the floor is yours.
Yes, I'm going to start, just so I don't forget, with the Campus Kilpatrick inspection. We had a lively town hall last Thursday. Thank you so much to Dr. Góngora for leading that town hall, to the commissioners who participated. We had a big public participation in our town hall. Thanks to all of you who came out and asked questions. The report is finalized. You can watch that town hall on Thursday, and the remaining step is for the commission to vote to approve the report, at which point it will be submitted to the Board of State and Community Corrections, the BSCC. That's what we're required to do. And then we'll also submit it to the Board of Supervisors and the court. And of course, it's already public. So if I could have someone make a motion to approve that report, I would appreciate it.
Motion to approve the CVK report.
Then we do need a second,
Second.
not from the audience.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Bonnie and seconded by Commissioner Ship.
Thank you. Okay, and then the next thing on my part of the report is about outstanding information requests. I will say I'm feeling disappointed about the receipt of outstanding information requests this month, which is different than things have been in recent months. We did not receive a number of the items that have been requested. And then after I get through this part, I'm going to talk a little bit more about trying to synthesize some of the problems that I see with the data and how it's been reported in general and how that relates to the items that were discussed today. The specific items that have not been provided are the snapshot data, which is extremely important for our ongoing analysis. Missing and late is the data from April 1st, which was due on May 8th, the data for May 1st, which was due on June 12th, that's tomorrow. And so we're missing the March data and the April data. I have requested it. It was in the official memo. I'm not sure what the holdup is. But that is what allows us to do those reports about LAD scores and geography and get a sense of who the young people are, how many youth have developmental disabilities, how many are CSEC, how many are DCFS open cases. It's very important for the understanding of the general population of youth, and also to be able to fact check some of the reports that are made about youth in public spaces. So I would appreciate the commission's action on receiving those reports. Second, there is a motion from the April 9th meeting that was due on May 9th that is in regard to detention recommendations, pre-plea reports, and overrides. It was also very specifically included in the memo. I actually had a conversation with the department in which I was expecting to receive it very close to last month's meeting. I'm not sure what happened, but it has not been received. And then I think there are some of the outstanding budget items that you all have discussed that have been requested for months in different formats. I think the problem that I'm feeling about the budget item and those requests is as follows. I do not work for the probation department, nor do any of you. And well, there are some people in the audience who do, but none of you do. A department that has $1 billion budget and thousands of employees, I would expect to be able to provide data that is explanatory to their oversight commission and the public. So the way that this has mostly been working is that the commission will make a request for specific data, and the department will follow through with that request for specific data. Not always timely, but almost always we end up getting the data that we request. But it doesn't provide the data in the full picture that is required. It's not a presentation, for example, of probation education services data or the budget data. Like, come and present a PowerPoint presentation that shows and explains to the public how to do this. So there is transparency in the sense of receiving the data that we ask for directly. What I would hope for is a more collaborative educational experience that would help the commission to better understand and the public to better understand. I think that's the purpose of a civilian oversight commission. And so, I understand that there's a desire for the commission to do this like very clear point by point ask. And the reason for that is that if you don't do it, you don't get it. But I do think there could be an ask for more broad presentations that would be more explanatory about these systems and questions and data. And then finally, there is one remaining item that has been discussed at the town hall, and Commissioner Kakani mentioned it today, which is about the consultant's report for the issues around girls and gender expansive youth and the module of training that was presented. So it's those items, the two items from the memo, the monthly snapshot for those 2 months that are missing, the POC motion. These are attached to the agenda, were sent to the department on May 20th. And then should you choose also to take action on them, the consultant's report around girls and gender expansive youth and any of the outstanding budget items.
Are there any comments or questions? Dr. Kakani.
I just want to assume that it's, I just want to ask, it's safe to assume that there hasn't been a response as it relates to the two data points that are named, being the monthly snapshot of detained youth with anonymized data and the data regarding detention report recommendations. There's been no response.
Unless it happened in the last 10 minutes. That's not been a response.
I also want to be supportive, both of you and of the public's, I think, right to understand what is happening inside of this $1 billion department. And so with that being said, I'm not sure if this is the appropriate time to do this, but I guess would like to make a motion to subpoena the outstanding information as it relates to the monthly snapshot of detained youth, as it relates to the data regarding detention report recommendations, pre-plea report, and overrides, as it relates to the CVK specific kind of training module that was referred to in the probation department's response to the Probation Oversight Commission as having been shared with us. I think shared is a pretty safe word around which there aren't a number of like legal interpretations. And so I would like that to be shared via, unfortunately, subpoena. Not sure what the holdup is. And then as it relates to the budget items, I might refer to Commissioner Harris as the chair of that ad hoc committee, if that makes sense.
I support subpoena.
Okay, so that's my motion.
I second.
Okay, we have a Commissioner Kokani has put forth a motion, seconded by Commissioner Harris, and now we move on for an aye vote, right? Or public comment.
Public comment, but actually I have one other element of my report, if that's okay. So I think we'll just leave that motion on the table and get public comment. There are two reports that are referenced under my agenda item, which the data and research team for the Probation Oversight Commission has been working diligently on. One of them is complete and with probation for review. It's about the call out data. And I just want to talk for a minute about it because I think this actually relates to the same point, which is that the Probation Oversight Commission and the Board of Supervisors have been asking about call out data and for reports on call out data for, I don't think years is an exaggeration. And we have realized a couple of things. And part of this is because we have this exceptional opportunity to have this predictive data analyst with a PhD on our staff who looks at data differently than some of the rest of us do. And also because of talking to staff members, to probation staff members, officers, that there are a couple of problems with a focus on the call out data. One of the problems is it doesn't tell the whole story. So if you want to know how many people showed up for work, you have to know how many people called out, but you also have to know how many people didn't call out and didn't show up for work. That seems obvious, but it wasn't obvious to me. I missed that. And so now we do have data on that, which was provided by the department pursuant to a very specific request. And I'm very pleased to say that we'll have a report that we'll publish next week that will provide an analysis. And spoiler alert, it shows there have been improvements. There have been improvements across the board, but in particular on the no call, no show data, and in particular at Los Padrinos. So this isn't an attempt to show that the department isn't doing a good job. It's an attempt to do an analysis of the data that tries to tell a whole picture of the story. But there's a different problem with the call out data that even including the no calls, no shows doesn't fully demonstrate. And it's what we heard in public comment recently, which is that I would expect in any organization, including the Probation Oversight Commission, sometimes people call out. If somebody has a cold and we have a meeting, I certainly hope they don't come here to this meeting. I don't want their germs. Also, I want them to take care of themselves. Also, people have childcare and elder care and other family responsibilities and reasons that you have to call out for work. There should be an expectation in any agency that a certain percentage of people call out on any specific day. And there should be data about what those call out rates look like. And that should be measured and accounted for. And we should, as a county, decide whether our rates are too high or too low. What is not acceptable is no call, no show. That should never be acceptable. And Commissioner Meredith has talked about this multiple times. This is something that the department must stop. And I think they have done some great work in stopping it. I've actually seen some specific statements from union leaders demanding that their members not do that because it really is terrible for the other people who end up getting held over. But in the situation within the department, and this comes through, I think, the many, many interviews that POC staff and commissioners have conducted with line officers, the reasons for call outs go beyond just being sick or having care responsibilities and relate to morale and relate to exhaustion and relate to culture. And those issues have to be addressed at a site leadership level and a county leadership level. And so I think it's really helpful to analyze the data around callouts and no calls, no shows and get a picture of what it looks like. It helps to compare the facilities against each other. It helps to do a lot of those things, and we will continue to do that. But I hope that the commission will continue to ask kind of the bigger questions about the reasons why staff may be calling out at rates that seem high compared to other agencies within the county or other probation departments and other places. And I appreciate your willingness to listen to folks who are explaining it. So I hope we can help to get a bigger picture of that. The second report that's coming out that probation doesn't have yet, but we will certainly send to them before we publish it, is about OC spray. I will say part of my hesitation in sharing it is that a couple of years ago, I said this many times in public, despite the department not following through with the phase out plan, Barry J., the leadership at Barry J., decided themselves to stop using OC spray. They still use it occasionally. It happens. It has happened more now that the predisposition population is there. The numbers are still fairly low. And it was a site-based initiative that wasn't, I mean, nobody actually really even talked about it in public, but the number, you can see the numbers decline in the data pretty significantly. I went with the team, many of you, to the Los Padrinos inspection this year, and I heard the superintendent, Ms. Castellum, say, we're going to reduce the OC spray rates. And then she showed us a memo that she sent to staff and talked about how they were going to talk about training and de-escalation and opportunities to reduce OC spray rates. You have in your packet something that is pretty great, which is, I mean, like there was a week where there were no OC sprays. There are weeks where the OC sprays have been 3 when they were really at 7 or 8. Now, would I like to see it be 0 and eliminate OC spray? In my personal opinion, yes, that is my opinion. It also happens to be a 5-0 board motion on multiple occasions. But that kind of initiative from site leadership is really fantastic. So we are going to publish the report because it does talk about some concerns about things like how OC spray and incidents that don't involve violence are defined. And some other questions about the collection of the data. A lot of questions about injury. What does an injury mean with result to OC spray? So I think the Oversight Commission needs to continue following this issue, in particular because of the board's very clear statements about an eventual phase-out elimination of OC spray, and also that being a best practice. But I do want to acknowledge that that can exist also with people within the department doing the right thing to go in the right direction with OC spray, and I really want to lift that up. So those reports will be coming soon. And I think that's the end of my report. And so I'll turn it back over. Well, I guess, I mean, we can do public comment.
Yeah.
So we have 2 motions on the table. One is to approve the CBK, Campus Kilpatrick inspection as approved. I'll note also probation's response is attached to that. And the second is a motion, sorry, I got to get back to my notes, by Commissioner Kokani, seconded by Commissioner Harris, which is to subpoena the outstanding data from the May 20th memo, which is attached to the agenda. Those 2 items include the monthly snapshots and the data regarding detention report recommendations from an April 9th motion, and then also the CBK Campus Kilpatrick training module. Do you want to list specifics around? Okay.
Yes.
Well, you had mentioned you were going to refer to Commissioner Harris about budget items.
I would support just including the outstanding budget request items in this motion for subpoena.
I should know the answer to this, but is that obvious what those are?
The questions that are with Ms.
The ones that she mentioned that the department
Yes.
needs more time for.
Yes.
Got it. Okay, thank you. So the outstanding budget requests. And that is in fact on a written document that was emailed to the department. So I I'm looking at Janae. I don't think that that document is actually part of the public record today. I think all we did was provide the answers that probation replied, not the questions. But that you're referring to that document that does exist, which we can make what I'll do is I'll take that email, if this is okay with you, and turn it into the questions that are specific in the motion. Okay. Okay, so let's take public comment on my report. Anybody in the room want to make public comment?
Y'all can't come at me
Please.
yet.
Yeah, sure. Of course, you can. Anybody can make public comment on, as long as it applies to this agenda item, and then next we'll go to general public comment.
Yes. Mr. Goldner, once again, I just had a question. You said you were gonna take an informal vote on, or a less than quorum vote on whether we could have a off, not public meeting.
We don't need to have a vote on that. The commission can decide to have a non-public meeting as long as fewer than 5 commissioners participate, so that there isn't quorum and that no decisions are made. It would be an informal meeting, but they don't need to vote on that. Thank you.
Mr. Morrow again, Deputy Morrow. Regarding the OC stuff, there's been less OC because there's been less incidents. And there's been a lot less incidents because there's been a lot of proactive supervision and excessive verbal de-escalation and tons of rapport building and staff engagement with these youth. That's why there's less incidents. We have very good officers at SYTF where I'm at right now. And to me, eradicating OC spray from a facility where there's 250-pound kids and staff my size, not that I'm that weak, trying to break something up, you're gonna have a lot more serious injuries amongst the youth and staff if you get rid of OC spray entirely. I think it's so irresponsible, to be honest with you. Maybe have it in the office with the supervisor's discretion to be used, not on our person directly when we're on duty, but to get rid of our last continuum of use of force in a facility where violence is prevalent and active and can occur at any moment, unpredictable. It's irresponsible, unsafe. Obviously, officers in the past have completely given us a bad name, some of us, by their actions, totally stupid. I reprimand that, and I'm not in agreement with that at all. But used responsibly, appropriately, follow decontamination protocols, all those things that we're supposed to do, if that's followed and that's done correctly, there's nothing wrong with OC spray in a facility where our safety and the youth that we serve, safety is at risk at all times.
Good afternoon. My name is Kevin Bod. I'm a supervisor with the LA County Probation Department. First of all, thank you for that information that our staff are using OC spray appropriately. I guess I'm going to say something that you guys are probably going to look at me with some really bad eyes, but I feel that we should keep OC spray in all our facilities. And one facility I believe we should have OC spray is at Campus Kilpatrick for our non-dispo youth. We're encountering a lot of, I'll say, situations at that facility. And based off your report with the type of things, de-escalation, staff being instructed how to properly use OC, I believe our staff who are dealing with our non-disposed youth should, or predisposed youth should carry OC spray. It shouldn't be something where, kind of Mr. Morrow saying that a supervisor should have it. No, if our staff are trained properly, they should have the opportunity to have OC spray and use it appropriately. We're not saying to go there and somebody drops a pin on the ground, you're gonna go ahead and spray them with OC. That's not what we're saying. We're saying that sometimes you have dynamic situations that arise that require OC spray to be used. And until we can get the proper staffing, and we all want these kids to be safe. We want the staff to be safe. But currently, we don't have the proper staffing to be able to have 4 people in a unit. We all know, I've read your report. I saw your town hall. You said it yourself. You have 1 staff in a building with 4 or 5 kids. Now, again, We know some of our facilities at CVK are doing really well, but some of our pre-dispo cottages are not doing that well. So why shouldn't our staff, trained properly, provided with the memo you brought up, Wendy, saying how they should use it, why should they not have the opportunity and the discretion to use OC spray when a certain situation requires it?
Any online commenters? Nope. Okay, may I clarify? I do not think staff are using OC spray correctly because I do not think staff should be using OC spray. That is my opinion. I do, however, accept the correction that was made previously regarding the line staff and supervision staff at Barry J and their rapport with the youth for being responsible for fewer incidents and fewer OC spray. That is a more articulate way of saying it, and I should have said it that way, and I appreciate that correction. Oh, we got to vote. Okay. Okay, so we will vote first on the CVK inspection, yes, no, or abstain. And I lost my list, but I'm just going to look at you. Commissioner Harris?
Oh, yes.
Commissioner Kokani? Commissioner Shipp? Commissioner Meredith? And Chair Canales?
Yes.
So 5-0 with Commissioners Prater, Jackson, and Terry being absent. The CVK inspection is approved as submitted. And now we'll vote on the motion by Commissioner Kokani, seconded by Commissioner Harris, to subpoena the outstanding data from the monthly memo, which includes the motion on detention report recommendations, the snapshot data, and including the training module for Campus Kilpatrick and the outstanding budget requests that have previously been submitted to probation in writing. Did I state that correctly? So with that, Commissioner Harris, please vote yes, no, or abstain.
Yes.
Commissioner Kokani?
Yes.
Commissioner Shipp? Commissioner Meredith? Commissioner Canales?
Yes.
So 5-0 with Commissioners Prater, Jackson, and Terry being absent. That motion to subpoena that information passes. And that's the end of my presentation.
Okay, thank you so much. So with that, we move on to agenda item number 7. And commissioners and POC staff comment only. We do not take public comment on this one, but you all are up next. So item 7 is for items not posted on the agenda to discuss or to place on a future meeting agenda for action. Commissioners, do you have any announcements or items you would like to place on a future agenda? Yes, Commissioner Meredith.
Yes, I want to recognize Probation Officer Rafael Paz, co-located with the Glendale and Burbank Police Departments. He received an award from them for distinguished service, doing numerous great things for them. I've heard more accolades than not over the last 2 years about that, so I just wanted to give him a bit of a recognition here. The second thing is there's Assembly Bill 2419 that's on hold now that I fully support, that would put body cameras on probation staff, which I think would mitigate a lot of the problems. I'm not sure why the one union seems to oppose it when it'd actually be in their benefit, but I think the commissioners should all take a look at AB 2419 and maybe we can discuss it at a future meeting.
Yes, Commissioner Kokani.
I believe AB 2419 died in appropriations. So just wanted to provide that update. And then as a separate issue, an agenda item that I think might be worth looking into is around I don't know how to articulate this like correctly, but really the extent to which we are medicating young folks, whether it's through Benadryl, whether it's through melatonin, whether it's through psychotropic medication related to their trauma. I get that young people cannot sleep well when they have experienced significant trauma, but to what extent are we medicating that issue? And to what extent are we addressing the underlying need? But I just think that the the number of times that we have done inspections and the number of times that we have either seen grievances related to sleep medications, talked to young people about sleep medication, it would be great if we could just have a clear number, especially as it relates to the long-term impact of extended use of things like Benadryl.
I asked Dr. Gongora to come up because I know that that information is available. And the Office of Child Protection, which now has a new name, and I'm not going to be able to pull it off the top of my head, has done significant work in psychotropic medications for youth on the dependency and the juvenile justice side that I'm sure we could learn more about or have a presentation on. But Dr. Gongora, do you have any ideas about who else we might bring into a presentation like that to get a full picture?
I think we might also include the Department of Mental Health, specifically psychiatry, and probably also JCHS, Juvenile Court Health Services, who are operating the care at the different probation facilities.
Thank you. Okay, great.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner Ship?
Yeah, I want to say earlier, it was earlier this week, but just wanted to give a shout out to some of the young people who just graduated from Mission College this week. They came home and they continued their education at Mission College, and so some of them just graduated, and so I attended that with them. So we just wanted to send a congratulations to some of them.
Thank you so much for that, Commissioner Ship. And thank you, Dr. Gongora. We appreciate your feedback. Is there anything else? Okay. All right. Is that it before I move on to agenda item 8? Okay. So now this is moving on to agenda item 8, opportunity for the public to address the Probation Oversight Commission. So you come back up, make public comment, and let's get some clarification here.
Great. Also, if you're online and want to make public comment, please use the raise your hand function or dial *3 on your phone.
And so, so with that, we will go ahead and Wendy, if you want to facilitate the public comment for us.
You can start, Thomas.
All right, hello, Thomas Bell again. Glad when my coworkers come, I ain't got to speak as much. All right, I just wanted to clarify one thing that was said. The DPO2 position that they're offering right now requires a master's degree. So I don't know, and it actually requires a master's degree in a certain field. So that's not an opportunity for us to promote. That's in social work, yes. That's not an opportunity for everyone to promote. Me, who've been here 11 years in the same position, I don't have a master's degree. So the only way they're offering me now to promote is through a master's degree. That isn't right. That isn't fair, especially when they just promoted our DSOs, the DPO1s. They can do it. They got the space for it. Two, last thing I just wanted to say, I know the last one was just for the commissioners, but I hear a lot of rumors, and I don't like dealing with rumors. So I wonder if you guys get to the bottom about our camps. I just want to see what's the long goal plan for our camps. Page is still in the global plan, and I want to make sure that it stays in their global plan and that he actually fulfills that plan and opens it back up. Because the rumor is it's never going to see light of day again. The rumor is Camp Alpha Ball is next to close, even though we got almost 60 kids in there. So I don't like dealing with rumors. So I would like if the commissioner will ask the county or the department, what's their plan for the camps? What's their long-term plan? What's their goals? So we can know what we're dealing with instead of dealing with rumors. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. And yes, it's absolutely necessary to get to the bottom of those rumors. I hadn't heard them yet, though, but now I am very interested. Okay. Yes, go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Curtis Miller. I'm first vice president of our supervisors union. I would be remiss if I didn't come up here and address specifically a statement that was made by Chair Canales with regards to our members, with regards to supervisors not being present and things like that. I just want to shine light to, sometimes or oftentimes we paint our officers with broad brushes, whether you're talking about supervisors, DPOs, DSOs, what have you, with these broad brushes of officers don't come to work, they're not present, these things. I really want to highlight the fact that our supervisors that were assigned to the halls, our SDSOs, have been working double and triple duty for years in deplorable working conditions. Second, most recently, we had over 60 of our members, our SDPOs, reassigned from the field to the halls. So, I mean, we have over 50 SDSOs and SDSOs and SDPOs at Barry J, and I think those numbers are the same at Los Padrinos. And what I've seen from that is officers that have, some of them haven't been in the institutions for years. Some have never worked in institutions. They're showing up every day. They're present. They're in the buildings. They're making a difference. So I just wanted to highlight that because far too many times within our department, it seems like we kind of get these daggers thrown at us and there's no one to defend us except for Mr. Bell most of the time. But I'm, you know, we're going to be present and be here more because we have to start shining a light on, you know, the good work that we're doing. Far too often there's just a light on just the negativity, which makes it very hard for these officers that come to work every day to just continually be beat down. But I wanted to really highlight our members and the work that they're doing. They've been there for the last 2 months, away from their field assignments, working shifts that they never, I'll come back.
I'll pick up. Hopefully this one is a little more popular this time, right? So again, Kevin Bodden. First thing I want to talk about is just the presentation, dealing with our schools. I think all of us here can agree. Everybody sitting down at these tables can say, hey, we know what education brings, right? I'm an inner city kid. I was affected by probation before I joined probation. That's the reason here, but that's another talk. I've had a talk with Frankie Carrillo, a deep conversation, and never kind of came to light, but we shared our kind of common story. So first of all, I want to talk about schools, and Mr. Meredith and I spoke about this. We're talking about post-secondary education, but also we have to keep in mind when our kids go home, they go back to the same environment. So something that we really have to try to start talking about is finding placement with outside of those environments. You know, Job Corps, I don't know where that stands now, like places like Job Corps. I could go back to 2006 working in Challenger in Lancaster and having twin brothers, you know, heavily gang entrenched and mother gang entrenched, but they were still willing to say, hey, if you could find some place for this young man, we're willing to do it. It didn't work out. It wasn't a happy story, a happy ending, but we tried. And we were looking in Job Corps in Arizona because this kid could not return to the neighborhood and do what I know he could do. It just didn't work out. But those are the type of things that I want to talk about first so that we can try to start thinking outside the box. We could put them in all the colleges. You know, there's a story we could talk about, one of the kids that we all know well, or we know a story of him, who just died not too long ago. And that's the thing, you put a kid back in the same environment and they be gone 2-3 years and bad things happen, okay? And then just the next thing what Mr. Miller was talking about is just, please understand, Ms. Canales, we have different roles. You might have an administrative supervisor, which is their role to sit in there and do paperwork. Then you have a line supervisor who may go around, but some supervisors do things differently, but ran out of time.
Thank you. No online public comments? Okay. Oh, sorry. Welcome. Please.
Thank you very much again for having us. July 14th, 2020. Dear Mauricio Moraro, examination title, Deputy Probation Officer 2 Field. So that was the last time this thing was open for us in-house people, for us within probation, not outside people from other departments that they're trying to get to take over for us, like they're better or something. So that was the last time without a master's degree for us to promote to the field. Clearly, there's no more field positions open. I understand that. I'm very grateful, thankful that I have a job, I have a career, I love probation, I love what I do. But like I said, 19 years, 13 in the same spot. Those of us that are in good standing, I think deserve, check us out. Look at our records, look at our histories, our work attitudes, our coworkers, talk to our supervisors. There's some GSNs that have been grandfathered into Deputy Probation Officer 1 positions recently. So if they could do it for some, hopefully they could do it for some of us. Obviously, no, money's a motivator. Obviously, it's not everything, but for some of us, it would mean a lot. We got a lot to juggle. We got lives outside of work. I feel for all my staff that are getting held over, working doubles left and right, 15, 20-hour shifts. But you guys understand what's going on. I hope so. I hope we have your support. Clearly, I think we do. And thank you for showing up. Our supervisors over here, Have a good weekend. Thank you.
Thank you. Where are you going to come up? Okay, good.
I'd like to begin with a quote from Rebecca Solnit. Hope is not a lottery ticket you sit on. It's a hammer you pick up. For years, line staff in Los Angeles County Probation have been asked to rely on hope. Hope that staffing will improve. Hope that retention will improve. Hope that working conditions will improve. Meanwhile, DPOs, DSOs continue to work in chronically understaffed facilities. Many of us work mandatory overtime. Many of us routinely miss meal periods and rest breaks because there's simply not enough staff available to provide relief. This has become normalized. The county often asks why recruitment and retention are struggling. The answer is not complicated. People are reluctant to enter or remain in a profession where chronic understaffing, burnout, forced overtime, and increasing responsibilities have become the standard. What concerns me most is a troubling contradiction. Probation officers are frequently criticized for not spending enough time programming, mentoring, counseling, and building relationships with youth. Yet those same officers are working in facilities that are chronically understaffed. You cannot simultaneously deprive staff of the time and resources necessary to perform these functions and then point to resulting shortcomings as evidence that someone else should be doing the work. Increasingly, we hear the solution is more community-based and that they play an important role, which is fine, but they should supplement probation staff, not replace it. If an officer spends an entire shift covering shortages, responding to incidents, filling vacancies, working overtime, there's less time available for mentoring, counseling, programming, and positive youth engagement. That's not a failure of the line staff. That's a consequence of chronic understaffing. The department cannot continue to shortchange facilities on staffing, then use the predictable effects of the understaffing as justification for transferring more responsibilities outside the profession. Men and women working in these facilities continue to show up every day. They continue to serve the youth. They continue to carry the burden in the staff. Hope alone will not solve these problems. At some point, we must be followed by action. I finish?
I don't care. Go ahead.
All right. At some point, hope must be followed by action. I ask this commission to continue examining chronic understaffing, mandatory overtime, missed meal periods and rest periods, recruitment failures, retention failures, and the impact these conditions have on both staff and youth. Because if we truly want better outcomes, we must first ensure that the people responsible for delivering on these outcomes are adequately staffed, adequately supported, and adequately compensated.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I have a question. Do the supervisors get held over the minute they show up to work in the morning? Do they get an automatic holdover also? They're exempt from holdovers? That's why y'all look all fresh sitting there and all stuff, well slept, no wrinkles, no bags, snazzy socks. You do? Okay. And I do want to clarify. Okay, right. And I do want to clarify, when I made my comment, I even said, I know y'all are going to come at me, but and that's okay because I'm the most targeted commissioner and that's all good. But what I want to say is I did say so when I made my comment, I did say more often than not. I said that. I said, I have, and if I start naming names, I'll leave somebody out. But I always uplift the positive, always. But I cannot forget that day that I was on site and I was at Los Padrinos, staff were tired. Staff were coming up to me saying, I just got deployed after a decade over here and I got an email a day ago saying this is, and looking tired. And I was asking who the supervisor was. Nobody knew. I went, she was in her office, which I get, doing administrative duties, and then dipped out early. I have seen that where I've seen when morale is that low. I believe from my perspective that it's important for a supervisor to go and, walk shoulder to shoulder, side by side, and so that's why I made that statement, not to put anybody down. So point of clarification. Right, and I appreciate you being here and staying the whole meeting. I really do. So with that, commissioners, any more closing comments before we end? Do I go ahead? Okay, motion to adjourn? All right, Commissioner Kakani, and seconded by Commissioner Harris. All right, thank you all for joining us and sharing your comments. As a quick reminder, be sure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel at LAC County POC. To receive reminders about our upcoming meetings, visit our website at www.poclacounty.gov. To subscribe to our email list, it is now 1:03 and 33 seconds. Can I have a motion to adjourn, which we did? Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Looking forward to the next meeting.